People from all over the world are seeking inspiration, looking for answers, looking for ways to become the best version of themselves. And The Best You is launching in 2021 the Best TV series, a place where we will feature the best speakers, coaches, authors, and mentors. Leaders in their own rights, innovators, influencers, inspirers of the 21st century. Coming soon to The Best You TV.
So, hello, good afternoon. It is here from the UK. My name is Hugh McAlinden, and I'll be hosting this afternoon's sessions. You're in for an absolute treat. We have just finished a brilliant call there with Daryl Stern, and Daryl is known as the Digital Jedi, and we're in for an even bigger treat because coming up now, all the way from Scandinavia, I actually believe from Sweden originally, although living in the UK today, is Christopher Lambic. And Christopher's background, folks, is in coaching and real life experiences in business. And from getting to know Christopher just recently and covering his profile and different things, I've come to realize that he's pretty much takes a holistic approach to finding the deep person within you, to finding the passion that may have once been alive and roaring inside you, but today is perhaps a little bit more dormant and just waiting for someone to bring it back to the fore. So I think Christopher's with us at the moment. We're just waiting for him to pop on the screen. So Christopher, whenever you're with us, hello, Christopher. Yeah. Good to see you again.
Hi, Hugh. As you can see, I've changed locations a little bit. So as I'm co-hosting with you, but now I'm stepping into my other room, or virtual room anyway, to the Alchemy Experience, where I'm coming from now. So thank you for that introduction. And yeah, I mean, it is really about digging out that essential passion, right? To find the essence of your authenticity, right?
Yes. I noticed you used the word, is it alchemy experience? Is it, is that, sorry, what's the experience? Just your head's blocking me there slightly. Alchemy, is it? Yeah, alchemy. So what does that exactly mean to the average person who's watching today?
Well, so alchemy, as I understand it, and anyone who's read The Alchemist,
Hello.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a metaphor, because traditionally we understand it as a process of turning base metal into gold, right?
Yes.
So to me, it's a metaphor from turning our sleepwalking selves into self-actualized, or just presenting our self-authentic selves to the world. So it's bringing, nobody is born with anger, fear, any of these negative programmings that we kind of grow up with. That's all accumulated and burden on top of you. So the process we use is really to dig down and find the pure essence of yourself that you were born with, and just shake off all of that other crap that you've built up. And that process in itself is an experience, because your life as a whole is filled with experiences. So you start out with, well, in our system in a way, it's like your consciousness enters that collection of cells in your mother's womb, right? That's when life starts, and then everything beyond that are experiences. So sounds you hear outside, getting nutrition, being, coming out into the light, all of those things are experiences until the point where your consciousness leaves your physical self. So just kind of boiling it down to the very bare essentials. And when you look at it that way, everything around these experiences that we have they're impermanent. They're just kind of characters or paraphernalia that shows up to give you richness to that experience and allow you to look at an experience from different angles and learn something from it. Now, we tend to, as we grow up and we learn these different things to be afraid of and so forth, people holding us back because, oh, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? Like we talked about before. And it really, we start building up this limited worldview with the glass ceiling, here but no further. But when we go back to looking at these experiences we've had, because we do experience our present and our future through the lens of our past experiences. So, and you being a student of NLP, clearly you understand how to reframe and looking at these experiences. Just because you looked at those experiences one way before doesn't mean that you need to continue doing that. So you can go back, and this is where time travel is fully possible.
Yes.
Just recall the memory and say, okay, what are the other ways I can think about this memory and this experience?
Yes.
And you can totally refurnish it. You can totally, change the way you look at it, change your perception of others, and so forth. So all the elements that come into an experience are all impermanent. They come and go, and it's in that process that you accept the impermanence of those elements. And I mean, this is where Buddhism talks about the impermanence of life. The experiences are not impermanent because they are there. The experience you can't take away. You can't change the actual experience, the event, but you can change how you look at it. So this is where, when you apply alchemy to these life as an experience, then you can actually change, going from someone who puts yourself in, puts yourself down, talking bad about yourself, this negative self-talk, being in a victim space. You can go through this alchemy experience and start experiencing life for what it is and for what you really want it to be, because you go then back to the pure essence that you came into this world with, and then you can bring about and really step into your greatness. And it takes bravery, but because once you do that, people don't like it, because now suddenly you're someone different that they're not used to.
So you're
projecting out something completely different that they're unfamiliar with. They just go, who is this? Right?
Let your light shine, as the song says.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's
very good.
Only the brave will allow that to happen.
Yeah. Well, listen, Christopher, we're looking forward to hearing your talk. Just before we go to that, I've got a little note in my ear saying we're going to run just a 30-second commercial, and then we're ready for you to share your whole experience with us on that alchemy experience. So we're just going to go for a 30-second commercial here, and we'll be back in just one moment. Stay with us.
Yep, sounds good.
The Best You TV, a TV channel with only the best business leaders and influencers ready to help you rise to the top. Available now on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Google Play. Learn and grow from in-depth interviews, documentaries, inspirational talks, and motivational masterclasses from the world's biggest thought leaders, speakers, teachers, authors, coaches, and highly successful business gurus. The Best You TV is now live.
All right. So thank you for having me here on this platform, and thank you everybody for joining in who's listening live. It's really interesting times these, and finding your passion in a crisis, I think sometimes is easier, because you kind of strip away everything and you look at the future, and it's all very open, right? So what we talk about, and I'm going to approach this more from a business point of view today, even though business is a bigger fractal of the individual experience. Because, as we look at healthy businesses, it is a collection of individuals bringing their energy into a business, driving it towards a collective goal that you have all agreed on. And it's that agreement that then allows the business to succeed. So today, my talk really is about passion as a portal to business success. And it starts with the individual. Someone in a business has to decide that this is what I want to do. So whether it's an entrepreneur starting up a new business, you go into a business with an idea of what you want that business to achieve. Very rarely go people into an experience saying, I want to amass money. I want to build a pile of money. Because then suddenly you start looking at the challenges in life with money. And you can't, money is a tool. Money is something that you do something with. So it's not looking at how money can work for you, or how money is built up in a pile, as it were. It's what money can do for you, right? So bear with me a second. I'm just going to make an adjustment here, as I'm seeing my camera is treating my face like a green screen, and don't want that. So when we look at passion, we can't really get there until we understand ourselves and have an understanding of our own process. So when we work with clients in our coaching workshops, we really go back and look at, okay, where do you come from? What are your experiences? And try to remove some of those limiting beliefs that we may have. And once we do that, we use a kind of a system of 4 pillars or 4 kind of steps, but they do interlink and they do weave, are weaves of the same tapestry. So we got the that you show compassion for yourself, the experience, and everybody else connected to the experience. Then you accept yourself, and you accept your engagement with the experience. You accept everybody else's path, and you accept that their paths are separate from yours, and that it's okay whatever they brought to the experience. Then we go into working with forgiveness. So forgiving yourself for whatever choices you made that led to that particular experience, or forgiving anybody involved in the experience that may have caused you pain or hurt. And then after that, we might actually be able to ascertain the gifts or the gems, if you like, that can come out of that experience. So once you have that all sorted, then you can start peeling away the layers of the onion of, the influences that you've had growing up, the programming, the fears, and so forth. And then the passion will start to come out. So, I walked through life, until the age of about 43 or something like that. And then I started asking myself questions. And this is where we start out in our coaching process. We give everybody a sheet of questions. And they get about a week to kind of mull over those questions. Once you start asking questions, your subconscious will start to seek the answers and will start to present you with the answers. And once you do that, it's like you've opened Pandora's box. You can't go back. You will be on a process of searching and finding out who you are and what makes you tick and what really drives you forward. Now, that is when you start to unravel your passion and start understanding who you really are. So that road can be quite long. For me, I think it was probably a good 4 years on my process to really nailing down and understanding who I was and what I was wanted to do, or what was my pure essence, my authentic self. And I think part of that was the last key of it was accepting myself for who I was, and accepting that, not everybody's going to like what I do, not everybody's going to accept what I do, and that's fine. As long as I accept it from myself, and as long as that resonates with me, then that's perfectly okay. So why I'm going through all of this is that you can't show up and say, here's my passion, unless you really believe it and understand yourself. You need to embody the passion yourself. It's like living, eating, breathing. And there's some teachers out there that will say that, in order to be successful, you really have to be obsessed with what you do. I don't agree with that, because I think obsession signifies imbalance. To me, you show up and you're passionate. If you're passionate about what you do and who you are, then you will find that balance, because you will be regulated to being passionate about your family. But like for me, my massive transformative purpose is to help humanity prioritize passion. Then I work with my children that way too. So it's, yes, in some people's eyes, it might be an obsession, but I bring that across the board, so that it's balanced. So I find life balance across the board, and it's like the old adage that find your passion and you won't work another day in your life. And however cliche it may be, it is very true. So now, when we look at businesses, traditionally, you have the entrepreneur, they have a passionate idea, it works out great, and then 7, 10, 15 years later, a lot of times, the realities of business will start to kind of pile on, have to deal with the working with accountants and all the real life type of challenges that we come across. Now, if you get to that stage, you're going to focus more on the real life issues rather than the possibilities that were awakened from your passion, right? And when you get to that stage a few years down the road, and it becomes about the money, and the goals become about the money, then all the actors, all the stakeholders in the business are going to start extracting from the business what you send out, or what the business sends out, which is money and fear. Because once you start putting money or revenue as the main goal, then you also introduce fear. Oh, we need to reach this, otherwise this is going to happen. We have to reach this goal. And then people start, employees show up for a paycheck. Owners show up to get their share of the profit. The suppliers show up to sell their product and make their money. Clients show up to buy products cheap. So it's all about the collective energy that the business has. Now consider this. If you show up with a business where passion is the goal. So say, for example, that your passion is to create beautiful, affordable, ethically produced fashion, right? There is no particular goal in that you can actually achieve. It's something that you continuously do. It's not like increased profits by 20% in 2022. So it becomes a more of a system that you implement and achieve on a daily basis, because you're doing it, you're embodying it. Now, everybody who shows up in that business as a stakeholder will look at that, and they will be there because they subscribe to it and because they agree with it. So investors will come because they believe in the business concept. They believe in the passion. And for anybody who's studied Ikigai, this is really part of the whole the bigger picture I'm talking about. So really, you want to have that Ikigai in front of you. And suppliers will show up because they align and resonate with what you're trying to do. So it's not going to be some fast fashion manufacturer who really doesn't have any good plans for sorting out their pollutants and so forth. You as a business will search out the suppliers that are going to meet and align with your passion and Ikigai. The same with the clients. Your product might be a little slightly more expensive, but because the clients align with what you're trying to do, they're going to be happy to buy from you. So now, as you might notice as I'm speaking, instead of people extracting what they want from the business, people are starting to put into the business because they believe in the mission and the passion. So it's really about coalescing and bringing together a coherent group of stakeholders, because you can have a community as well. I mean, Apple is a very good example of a business where you have Steve Jobs who shows up and creates this passion, this following around the business, and then he gets kicked out, and all they now care about are the numbers, and the business goes down. It starts really ending up in trouble. Now bring Steve Jobs back, and suddenly the magic is back, because he embodied and brings back and brings in that passion. So I think that's probably one of the better examples. So money is a tool to achieve what you want. And, you know, some people might come into a business with the passion of living a comfortable life. And that, obviously, then money will be the catalyst for that. But then how are people going to align with that? Well, that's certainly up to them. And we all accept that that's their journey. And one of the popular concepts when you talk to salespeople, and Hugh will, when we bring him back on, will attest to that. You know, businesses typically go out and talk about their unique selling propositions. And that has worked very well. But today, when you talk about unique selling propositions, you have to tell different stories to investors. You have to tell a different story to a client or a supplier or to the employees, because they're all going to value the product or service differently. It's going to mean different things to them. Now, with a passion-oriented goal, you can actually bring everybody together, and you can have one USP, but now I want to call it a UPP, an up, a unique passion proposition, because it will be the same to everybody. So it comes back to the authenticity of your business, because now you're showing up and being authentic as a business. And as you recall, I was saying before, a healthy business is a collection of individuals that bring their energy into the business to drive towards a collective goal. So with that, you don't have to tell a different story to anybody, because your story is transparent and it is universal. It is the same for everybody. Now, also, when you go outside of the business, how competitive is a business going to be when they only look at the passion or the Ikigai aspect of the business? I would argue very competitive, because once you start breaking that down, you start looking at, okay, what are the objectives that we have for this year, next year, 3 years, 5 years ahead, in order to feed that bigger Ikigai goal. And then, so we have a tool called OKRs, objective key key results. So you look at the objective, which will have very broad strokes of objectives, still very much tied into the Ikigai. Everything feeds that. And then we'll go down and we'll look at more operationally. Then you can go to sales, you can go to human resources, you can go to operations, manufacturing. Doesn't matter what aspect of the business, and you can take those objectives and break them down into key results. What key results do we need to achieve in order to feed that objective that will then feed into the higher purpose, if you like. And this is where we then can get more focus. So on the sales side, for example, key results will be, oh, I need to get 10 new clients and I need to retain 95% of my existing clients. Now that in itself, in a normal, in a traditional business, I should say, where people show up to produce numbers, they will then do that because they are fearful of not making their bonus, or they're fearful of losing their job, what have you. In the passion-driven business, they do it because they align with the business and they know that, oh, I want to do my best. I want to make sure this happens because I believe so much in the business. So it becomes, the money becomes a result of the passion. The money becomes a tool that the business uses to feed that bigger purpose. So there's a bit of a new concept that appeared in the past couple of years called conscious capitalism. So when you listen to some people like Peter Diamandis, for example, when he talks about capitalism, it's not the ugly, dirty concept that has been portrayed in for the past probably about 100 years now. It's kind of, capitalism is about creating opportunities and creating prosperity for everybody. Now, it's been misused possibly, but there is this drive with conscious capitalism. So businesses can do well, but you can't do well if all you care about is the money, because then that's going to go down all the way down into your production line. And if you're always looking for the cheapest product, then yeah, there are sacrifices that are going to be made. Now, if you focus on the passion or the Ikigai, and the Ikigai then being your passion, what you can make money off of, what you're good at, and what people want to buy. So those are the four elements of the Ikigai. Then that is going to feed the entire process. And you are going to present a product that is ethical, that has high moral values, and so forth. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to showing up as role models. If we show up as we want, the change we want to see in the world, then all of these things are not going to be utopia any longer. We are going to be able to present ourselves, and people are going to look at us, as I was saying before. Yes, when you first make the changes, if you've lived your entire life one way, if then you show up and you're changed and you're now operating from a different paradigm, if you like, people around you are going to say, what the heck? They're not going to be too pleased with it, because now you're trying to do something that they might not dare doing, and they don't recognize you, they don't understand you, and now you will start to attract others. And that's the same when a business makes that change. employees, you need to recontract, like Keith Ferrazzi talks about. You need to recontract with your employees. If you're now switching from a profit or revenue-based model into a passion-based model, you need to go out and to all your stakeholders, your employees, your suppliers, your clients, your investors, and so forth, and say, now this is the drive we're going to have. Who's with us? Who is aligning with this? And undoubtedly, there's going to be plethora of people, investors, suppliers, clients, etc., that are not going to align with it. But the ones that do align with it are going to be your biggest supporters. And the beauty is, once those leave, that the ones that don't align with it, they leave, that prepares space, energetic space for you to attract the ones that do align with it. And that will happen very quickly, because those voids have to be filled, and it is going to be filled with what you put out into the world. So the concept here, and this going back to showing up as role models, is that eventually people will look at you and say, why do you think things going so well for him? Why is he doing so well? Well, she for that matter, but why is that person doing so well? What is the secret to their success? And they're going to want some of that, and they want to achieve that same. So they're going to look at you and ask you, what have you done? What's your key to success? And then you can share how you've worked towards bringing out your passion and presenting your passion. And it was like Darren was talking about before me, you have a responsibility to share your story. Now, you may think that, oh, well, I've heard that story many times. And, what I'm talking about here is no rocket science. It's not brain surgery. People have talked about this for years, and there are plenty of authors out there that talk about similar things. But the way I tell it will resonate with someone. It may not resonate with someone else. But the people that it resonates with, they might not resonate with the earlier ones. So we all need to share our stories, because it's going to reach someone. And that's part of the responsibility. And once we do that, it allows others to follow that path too. And this is how humanity evolves, in my view. And, I have friends that look at me and go, oh, that utopian thought pattern, or, that utopian goal is never going to happen. I just turn around to them and say, well, it might not, but if I don't try, who then is? So it comes down to, why not me? Why not now? So if Hugh wants to come on and we can have a little chat about this, then he's welcome to do that. And it's, as I say, it comes down to being the best role models that we can be. And we have, for example, as I mentioned, Steve Jobs. Richard Branson is another good example of someone who shows up and is his authentic self. And when you speak to any of these, it's not about whether they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, or if they journal, or whatever other keys to success that there might exist. It's more about, how do they show up and how do they embody their passion. And they all say money is not the objective. Money is a byproduct. It's a nice to have that happens after it. So welcome back, Hugh.
Hi, Christopher. Interesting insights there into what you're sharing with us, and I think one of the first ones that I would pick up on is this old adage that you have to be completely burning yourself out to be successful, which you hit right on, and that nail on the head for me, because I've heard that say so many times. And then you meet people, who died far too young because they were working far too hard. There's no point in being the richest person in the graveyard, as they say. So I just loved your analogy on that.
Well, when I was growing up, the the joke was richest person when we die wins, right? But the point is that all, in terms of wealth and monetary wealth, there's always going to be someone richer than you. And at the end of the day, when you look at it, and if that is your catalyst, at some point you're going to turn around and say, okay, well, what if I lose everything today? What do I have left? And then you're going to be quite poor. Now, if you come about things with really finding out who you are and what drives you and what you're passionate about, that's wealth no one can take away from you. And that is going to be, the platform that you can get materially ruined time and time again, but you will always come back because you have that drive and burning ambition within you to achieve or drive towards that passion. You will never achieve your passion because it is a too big of a goal, as it were. So it is a, and I think if you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, what they will all also say is that, failure is just another step on the way towards success, right? So someone who strives to have a lot of money, losing their money will be a failure that is detrimental to them because they have now failed at their goal. Now, if you set up your passion, you can't fail because you keep trying at it, right? It's like I was saying before, that you have that ikigai, and it's not a goal that you're ever going to achieve. It's something that you work within, and it allows you to feed to, and it brings people together as opposed to creating a disparate type of a situation. Yeah, so, I mean, you come from a sales background and yourself, and when you were out selling, when did you feel that you were the most successful in your sales career?
Well, it's actually interesting because my first 3 or 4 jobs in sales weren't that successful, so I was only 19, 20 years of age, and my first role was selling windows, and it was an incredible experience, and it was perhaps it was a genuine offer to get into that environment, and it didn't really work out for me, and then I went to sell photocopiers and fax machines, capital equipment during the early part of what we had in Europe here, recession, a hyperinflation recession at the end of the 80s and the early 90s, and interest rates were incredibly high to bring inflation down, so it absolutely crashed economies across Europe, and then so that didn't work out either. And it was, but each of them now, Christopher, with hindsight and listening to what you're saying as well, with hindsight, each of them they weren't failures, they weren't mistakes, but there were opportunities to grow, there were opportunities to learn. And now with the benefit of hindsight and the education that personal development has brought, I ask myself all of the time, what have I learned from this experience, or what are you teaching me now? And they're all opportunities to grow, they're opportunities to learn. And I think perhaps in summing that up, I now also realize that they become a deep-welled resource that's inside everyone, that sometime, whether we use them ourselves down the road or we get an opportunity, like we talked about with Daryl earlier on, to leave that CSI imprint on people, it's an opportunity. Sometimes our interactions with other people may only be for a short time, but some of those experiences that we have to draw on actually help someone else as well. So it's all and everything today for me, Christopher, good, bad, or indifferent, is all about an opportunity to learn, not about being successful, or not about being a failure, not even about making a mistake, but opportunities to learn that we will draw on from the future or share with someone else in the future.
No, that is very true, and it is that positive DNA is that showing up as your authentic self and showing up as authentically as you can, and of course it takes work. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's something we work on for the rest of our lives until we, find that situation where we can become enlightened and become Buddha or Jesus or whatever it may be. But that's not a goal in itself. When I talk about enlightenment, it's about the journey, not about the end result. But I think you would agree that and I think this really applies to governments as well, really any organization, is that when you get so bogged down and concerned about the money, then you are looking at from the aspect of fear. You're not looking at the opportunities and the possibilities when you look at, this is what drives me, this is my passion. And as you said before, with the benefit of hindsight, it's when you become aware of the what experiences have fed you, what they have provided for you, as opposed to what they've done to you. That's when you can look at your present and future situation and listen to your intuition and your gut feeling, and actually move in the direction of, as we're talking about before, the fork in the road, and actually take the right, the fork that is most appropriate to you, that is going to be most beneficial to you. Because fear is going to drive you down that route that is going to be of a scarcity mentality. It's not going to be of abundance. So it's hugely valuable to understand your passion and know where that's going.
Yeah, and I think, when I reflect back, and I haven't thought about it in years because that's over 30 years ago now, Christopher, that, those experiences that then shaped me, because I could easily have allowed my pilot, like that we talked about earlier today, burn out and then finish up living that life of mediocrity, which I never would have been happy with, So again, as I say, a friend said to me, everyone dies at a different age. We just get buried somewhere else down the road, or most people do, So the personal development has been the huge enlightening for me, and what's happening with the best you, what's happening with what you deliver, and so many other people who we'll be hearing from throughout the day. But I want to ask you this, because we're going to wrap it up now in a moment, but I just want to ask Christopher, if I was chatting to you and I was someone who was in business or who was ambling through life and not sure about where that fork in the road was for me now, what would you do for me? What would you bring out in me that would light that, turn that pilot light again into that burning ambition, that burning furnace that just wells up inside and recreates a passion inside me? What would that look like?
Well, and that can be quite a quick process, actually. We would sit down and, like I said before, and I use the analogy of the haystack, because when we're ambling through life, as you say, and we're in that fear mentality, scarcity mentality, we look at this haystack and we're trying to find the needles in it. So we dive into it and it's all very confusing. We can't find the needles because there are too many straws of hay. Now, when you go to a psychotherapist or a coach or something, you take all the straws and you put them into order. You compartmentalize things, and then you find the needles at the bottom of the stack, right? Now, what I employ is a scorching technique. I basically say, set the haystack on fire, and you can just pick up the needles, right? And that's using that mentality that I was talking about before, that just looking at the experience. Don't worry about all the elements that was in there, because they're impermanent anyway. Relationships come and go. Materials come and go. So materialistic things. So just look at the experience, look at what life is really about, and then take the gifts from that. That's where we start out, and starting to ask questions like, think back when you were passionate. What was that like? Bring that feeling back. So it's about reframing your experiences and reframing how you're going to go forward, and bringing back the feeling, the feeling within yourself, setting that intention. It's that combination of intention and feeling that will then enact the law of resonance and allow things that vibrate on the same frequency as you to come and meet you.
Just effectively get yourself back in tune then.
Yeah.
Super.
So, glorified mechanic.
Very good. Listen, brilliant. It's an invaluable insight, and I know that there's a lot more that people can get. So listen, we're going to go to a commercial now just in a few minutes, folks, and there's some good, I prefer to call them informationals, because there's some good stuff going on around the whole Best You family at this moment in time. There's lots more good stuff to come this afternoon. Just approaching 1 o'clock, we've got Sarah Davidson coming on, and she's got some, again, phenomenal insights to share with us as well. And later in the afternoon, we have Michael Neal, and Michael Neal has been a long-term hero of mine. I've read the first book I ever read on NLP some 17 years ago. He put the forward to it and done the editorial in it. So it's great that he's actually live with us here today on the stage. So we should be looking forward to that. So listen, Christopher, as we wrap up and as we get ready to go to our commercials, tell us how people can get in touch with you. Where do we go to find Christopher Lembeck?
Yeah, so you can find me at thealchemyexperience.co.uk, as you can see
in the background. Yes.
And I run a podcast, a weekly podcast that releases at 11:11 a.m. GMT every Friday, where we talk about the bigger things in life and talk about conscientious business. And I'm literally just search up Christopher Lemke, and you'll find some that have the same name as me. But I'm quite prolific in my production of materials. So.
Brilliant, Christopher. Well, listen, thank you for that. And Daryl's been sitting in watching away, keeping track of things. So he just pops a note in to say he's been really enjoying your talk. So listen, thank you, guys. Thank you for that. And come back to us really soon. And we'll be starting with Sarah Davison very shortly. So thank you. I think we're going to move to a commercial now.
Well, thank you.
My passion is to set people free by helping you transform any area of your life more effectively and faster than anything you've tried before. I do this by unique abilities gifted to me through 2 near-death experiences that allow me to help you change your frequency, changing your life.
You got to look at yourself as a brand. A lot of people don't necessarily do that. And in order to stand out, you need to be different. Don't be a copycat. There's a lot of people doing the same kind of things and copying a lot of other people. What you need to start doing is you need to start positioning yourself as a unique individual with unique expertise. There's a lot of people that want to make a difference, but they're not following their own messages. They're not following whatever it is that they preach. So I highly recommend that you walk your talk. You don't copy other people. You take yourself seriously. You take your brand seriously, but you also look at opportunities to either partner with people or find the platforms where you can speak. The platforms where you're going to have hundreds or thousands of people attending. And that's the best way for you to start connecting and meeting and working with individuals. It's the best, it's the easiest way, and it can happen very, very quickly.
Now, the Best You Personal and Professional Development Virtual Expos are happening globally in 2021. Whether you want to speak, exhibit, or attend, these are online events for all those passionate about living a better life, creating a better world, gaining greater mindfulness and meaning in these new times, and becoming the best version of themselves. Book your speaking slot, your virtual booth, and get tickets to attend now. Are you sick and tired of struggling to get your career to where you want it to be? Working with the right coach can be a life-changing experience, and Bernardo Moya is changing lives all over the world. Learn how to create revenue streams, attract higher qualified clients consistently, market your brand, and promote your business to a global audience. Bernardo is one of the biggest names in the world of personal development. He is an entrepreneur, an author, a speaker, and a founder and chief inspirational officer of the Best You Corporation. So fast track your career now.
My approach when it comes down to life really is about the holistic approach. And the holistic means is that everything that you do is important for you to become who you need to become. It starts with becoming aware of your thoughts. It starts surrounding yourself with the right people, focusing on the things that are important, building relationships, love. It's all important. It's all part of the process of growing. Life's too short. And if you don't really focus on where you're going and where you want to do and who you want to become, what's going to happen is eventually one day you will regret it. One of the most important questions I ask in the book, my book, the question is, what are you here for? What is your purpose? And we're all here for a reason. You need to understand what that reason is, and you need to start working towards it now.
The Best You is leading the way in the industry of personal and professional growth. Through our magazine, expos, e-learning, TV, club, and awards, The Best You's objective is to help people achieve their dreams, to do more, to be more, to live a life without limits. Join us if you believe in helping and inspiring others, in changing the world, in making it a more just and fair place through education and inspiration. Our goal, everyone, everywhere, now. If you are interested in making a difference, working, partnering, volunteering, supporting, or even licensing The Best You, let's talk. Let's work together and make the world a better place.
The Best You TV, a TV channel with only the best business leaders and influencers ready to help you rise to the top. Available now on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Google Play. Learn and grow from in-depth interviews, documentaries, inspirational talks, and motivational masterclasses from the world's biggest thought leaders, speakers, teachers, authors, coaches, and highly successful business gurus. The Best You TV is now live. Best You Store, helping you do more, achieve more, be more. Store.thebestyou.co.
So this was you going out one night, very uncomfortable with the girls, and you said there's got to be something more comfortable that we could wear, and you came up with the idea of developing or creating something that you had no experience with.
That's right. I went to a dinner dance and I was wearing a very uncomfortable cleavage bra, and I thought, why should women go through all this pain for a tiny bit of gain? And I took the bra off in the toilets. It was that uncomfortable. And I went back to the table with all of my friends and I said, I'm going to invent a bra, start a business on Monday. And they said, but what do you know about bras? You haven't been to college, you haven't been to university. And I says, well, I've got a pair of boobs and I'll work it out. That's what I did. For 3.5 years of my life, I invented Ultimo, the first world gel-fill bra. And I went to the Prince's Trust and they gave me some help and they gave me a mentor as well. And, you know, thousands of prototypes later, from playing around with the bra, and I wanted to, with the first gel-fill bra, I wanted to create basically a boob job bra. And 3.5 years later, I got all my friends and family into my bedroom and I asked my Auntie Joan to try it on first. And she says, well, why me? I said, well, if I can give you a cleavage, it will be a miracle. So she went in and she came out of the bathroom and she had a massive cleavage. And that's when I went down to Selfridges, the department store. I've always been told by my mum and dad, you know, it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter what education you managed to get, it doesn't matter the colour of your skin, your religion. If you have that dream, passion, determination, can-do attitude, you can achieve anything that you want to achieve. And they've always taught me to think big. So I thought, well, I could go to small boutiques and I could sell my range through there, but minimum order quantities is going to be a massive issue for me. So I just turned up to the buying office in Selfridges, the biggest, most prestigious department store in the UK, and I didn't have an appointment. I just had a bag of bras. And I said, I'm here to see the buyer. And she says, do you have an appointment? And I said, no. And she says, well, you won't get to see her. And I said, well, you don't understand. This is 3.5 years of my life in this bag. I'm heavily pregnant with my third baby. I'm £480,000 in debt. And this is the best cleavage bra ever. I need to see the buyer now. And the buyer came down and tried the bra on and boom, I got into Selfridges. So I suppose when I'm mentoring people in business, I say to them, you know, you've got to approach people, you've got to get yourself out there. Don't sit on your backside and wait for them to come to you, because it ain't going to happen.
Sure. Many years from now, what would you like your legacy to be?
I would just love to inspire as many people as possible, especially from deprived areas, for them to look up to me and say, well, if she's managed to do it, to build these successful brands and, you know, get an OBE and in the House of Lords and everything else, and she's from an area where we live in, then we can do it too. There ain't no secret. You know, if you just work hard, I always say the harder you work, the luckier you become.
Now, the Best You Personal and Professional Development Virtual Expos are happening globally in 2021. Whether you want to speak, exhibit, or attend, these are online events for all those passionate about living a better life, creating a better world, gaining greater mindfulness and meaning in these new times, and becoming the best version of themselves. Book your speaking slot, your virtual booth, and get tickets to attend now.
Welcome back to the Best You Virtual Expo here from London, UK. It's you find me, Christopher Lemke, and Hugh McAllen. Sorry. We got problems with our pronunciation today. So I'm now back in the Best You Expo.
This is better than my.
What was that, Hugh? Sorry.
I'm saying your English. Your English pronunciations are much better than my Swedish pronunciations.
I certainly hope so. So now we got coming up Sarah Davison, also best known as the divorce coach, created a revolutionary new ways to cope with breakup and divorce. She's combined her coaching skills with her own personal divorce experience, and I think we can all resonate that with in our own journeys. We create gold out of our experiences. And she so she's created a unique program around that. But she was also author of the best-selling book Uncoupling: How to Survive and Thrive After Breakups and Divorce. So we welcome Sarah to the stage.
Hello,
Hello. Sarah. Well,
Hello, Sarah.
We're going to leave you to it, Sarah, and then we'll pop in at the end and see if we have any questions for you. Is that right?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much. Thank you very much. Great job. Okie dokie. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. I do have some slides, which I know the producer is getting ready right now, and hopefully is going to share them with me so that I can crack on. So as they were saying, my name is Sarah Davison, and I am better known as the divorce coach. So what does that mean? It's a really unusual title. I know, but it is a title that really does what it says on the tin. And today I'm going to be teaching you how you can grow a successful coaching business, as well as creating a business that you love, because ultimately that is what is most important. Okay, creating a business that you love, that you want to jump out of bed and cannot be more excited to do. That's what we want. We want to create businesses that blow the doors off for you so that you can take what you do to the next level. Aha, here we go. Thank you, producer behind the scenes. This is fabulous. Okay, so my presentation is going to cover my 5 secrets. I'm going to shift over this way a little bit. Okay, it's going to cover my 5 secrets to becoming an outstanding coach. Now, I'm not talking about tinkering around the edges. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about being an okay coach. I'm not talking about being an average coach. I am talking about being an outstanding coach, a coach that blows the doors off. Okay, that's what I want for you. Okay, and that's what I'm going to share with you, my 5 secrets to help you get there. Okay, and we're also going to talk about growing a successful coaching business, because, you know, if you're going to be an outstanding coach, well, people need to know you're there. So that is a really different skill to coaching. So you can be the best coach in the world, but if nobody knows you're there, then that's no good to anyone, right? We want to create a business that generates an income for you, as well as being a business that you really love and are excited to jump out of bed and do. Okay, so that is what we're going to cover. So if we can go to the next slide, I'd really like you to start having a think about where you are now. So this talk is going to cover lots of different things. I'm going to pack it full of information, and it's going to be suitable for you if you are thinking about becoming a coach, as well as if you're an existing coach right now. So maybe you've got a business, a coaching business, and you're struggling to find clients, or you're struggling to get to grips with the techniques, how to actually apply them. Or maybe you're thinking, gosh, you know what? The way the world's going right now with the pandemic and everything that's going on, I really think a change of career is for me. And I've got some skills that could be transferable. I'm interested in coaching. I'm not sure if I could do it yet, but I'm really interested to find out more. So I'm going to give you an insight into what it's like to be a coach. I'm going to share my story of how I got to be where I am. And I'm also going to give you the tools so that you can grow a global coaching brand as well. Okay. So on the next slide, I'm going to show you, we're going to talk about growing a global coaching business. Now, I talk about this because my business is global. And interestingly enough, when I first started out, I remember I was sitting here actually in my office, and I was on the phone to my accountant, and he'd been involved in a previous business that I'd had. And we were talking about setting up a business. And he said, okay, Sarah, for Company's House, I need the name just to be registered on Company's House. So I said, Sarah Davison, Global Enterprises Limited. And he just laughed. I'll never forget. He just laughed. He said, Sarah, come on, it's you in your office in Ascot, UK, where I am now. Really? You're going to call it Global Enterprises? I was like, yeah, because one day I will be global. And he laughed, said, well, it doesn't matter, Sarah, because it's just the name for Company's House. So he did it, but he didn't believe. Now, this is a really interesting thing, because one of the tools I'm going to share with you is just, you have to know where you're going. Okay. You have to aim high. Okay. And I'm going to share some secrets on that as we go through. So the next slide, please, is all about my book. So I've also as well as having a global coaching business with clients around the world, and that's the beauty of Zoom and video conferencing, is that you can have clients anywhere. You no longer just have to focus on your local area and have people come to you and have to look for offices. You know, a lot of people, I don't think, will ever go back to wanting to get dressed and come to your house or come to your office for a session. Most people just love the convenience now of having coaching directly in their home. And so it's overcome that issue that came up sometimes where clients were like, oh, you live too far from me. Do you know a coach closer to me? Because obviously we can't travel right now. So actually people are more accepting, more open-minded, and are getting used to this, which is powerful. Now, my book, The Split, that's my second book. So I have 2 best-selling books. As they announced in the intro, I've got Uncoupling, which is a book, it's just behind me here, How to Survive and Thrive a Breakup or Divorce. So the techniques I teach are transferable across any kind of breakup. So it could be heartbreak, could be separation, could be divorce, could be amicable, and you're just feeling a bit stuck and don't really know how to put one foot in, how to go on without your partner. Or maybe you're devastated. Maybe your heart's been broken into a million pieces. And that's, devastating for anybody. So the tools and techniques that I share in both my Uncoupling book and the Split program, all right, no, over there. The Split program is all about your 30-day program. So this is 30-day program. So each day you read a chapter and it gives you something new to focus on and to try out, test, get used to. Okay, so they're both Amazon bestsellers. And yeah, they're designed for clients. Now, having a book is a great thing, guys, because automatically you become an expert. Now, obviously, you've got to have good content. It's got to be, well-researched, well-written, entertaining as well, because you want to help people, but you want to make it interesting to read. But if you're thinking about becoming a coach, it's definitely a very good tool to incorporate into your product suite. Okay, so I'm showing you the things that I do, and then I'm going to show you how you can do it too. So the next slide, yes. Now, welcome to my house. Only kidding, it's not my house. It is actually a hotel where I run my breakup recovery retreats. So these are 2 days live immersion. So I'm hoping if you're thinking about getting into coaching, you're thinking, hang on a second. Sarah's talking about books. She's so far talking about, I've talked about one-to-one coaching, right? And now I'm talking about live retreats. Yes, this is what I'm saying. If you want to grow a global brand, if you want to maximize your coaching business, it's not just one-to-one coaching. Of course, it can be if that's what you would like it to be, because this is about setting it up and creating a business you love. So it really depends on what you want, doesn't it? It depends. But if you're somebody that wants to grow a global business, then you're in the right place, because I'm going to show you how to do that, as well as giving you some techniques as well to look at too. So retreats are another great way to bolt on an extra revenue stream into your coaching business. Now, why is this so powerful? Well, when we can be face-to-face and actually be in a room with somebody else, then it is a very powerful way of doing things. Now, getting people in an immersive situation as a coach means that you can really not only give them the tools in a short space of time, but you get to make a lot of progress. You get to anchor them down. You get to really take them out of their daily life, don't you? Because there's no distractions. And for me, we're dealing with heartbreak, so they haven't got their ex phoning them, hopefully. Although it does happen. But if you were going to do a virtual retreat, which I also run now, taking this and made it virtual, because again, adapting to the climate is key, absolute key when you're growing a business, any business. And here we're talking about coaching. So you can't do the live retreats, but they're so popular. I wanted to carry on doing them, providing that support. So I now do them as a virtual, but that's every 6 weeks. It's a virtual webinar supported by a video program. So of course you don't get that being in the room with, but you still get that personal touch from the webinars, okay? And running a webinar is a skill set which you can develop, and it's definitely something that I teach all my coaches, because I train coaches. But these retreats are very powerful. You get them in a room. I do mine are 2 days at the moment. I'm also doing one abroad coming up, which is when we can travel with a luxury travel company, and we're going to do a whole sort of holistic sort of retreat with lots of things in there, like exercise and Pilates and nice walks and swims in the sea or whatever, with my content as well. But a retreat means you can put people in a room, you can work with them and really get those very powerful results, very fast transformations positive transformations in a short space of time. And because they're taken out their daily routine, it means that you really get full access to dive deep with them and hold their hand through the tough times, clean the slate a little bit for them, and then start to give them some good stuff. So actually, and also don't forget the social aspect of it as well, which is great. No, you can move on. That's great. Yeah. So this is my divorce coach training program, which is another possibility for you guys. If you find an area of the business that you love, then maybe you could train people to do what you do. Now, this came out of demand for people asking me to train them to become breakup and divorce coaches. So this is an online program because I have coaches in 5 different continents now around the world. So it's an online video training program, but, and this is the magic, which is unique, pretty unique, okay, is that I give a lot of my own personal time to the delegates, and I jump on, I do a lot of webinars, we do a lot of coach skill training, as well as the breakup and divorce techniques as well. Plus, we have an amazing community of all the coaches around the world who have access to a private Facebook group where I do a lot of free webinars, I get expert guests on. Last week, we had Suze Burney, who is a top stylist for the stars, Paul McCartney, so many amazing people. And she came on and talked about how style can boost your mood and how that can be incorporated into your portfolio as a coach of other people that you might want to have in your network that can also help your clients. And again, this is, again, thinking about growing a global business. The more people that you are referring to, maybe you have a referral scheme with them so you can get a kickback. Not always, but sometimes that can work. Sometimes it's not appropriate, in my opinion. Sometimes it is. Sometimes people want to give you a kickback for referring. So, there's lots of different ways that you can grow your coaching business. Okay, so I'm hoping that you're seeing that with these different avenues, these different products that I offer, there's ways here. Now, also, some of my books are available as a 30-day program. You can automate that through an email system. So taking the content and then maximizing it in lots of different ways. Because as you know, some people want to access it through their phone. Some people want to access it on audio or visual. Some people want to touch and see you. And obviously, they can't physically touch you anymore, but you can get that sort of connection through live webinars. And again, giving a webinar is a whole different skill set. You've got to learn how to develop those skills if you're going to do the webinars. But again, it's just an extra bolt-on revenue stream that is really, really powerful and just helps to grow your business. Okay, so I'm trying to show you all the different avenues there. So if we go to the next slide, there's another way that I've grown my business over the years is through the media. Now, this is something I'm going to talk about in one of my 5 secrets, because this is super, super powerful, okay? Because getting out into the media, obviously, as an expert in your field, people will read it. And some people will relate to it and want to pick up the phone. So for me, I do a lot of press. I do a lot of media. I'm kind of the go-to expert in the UK for anything to do with breakups and divorce on the emotional side. I don't do any legal side or financial side, but I do a lot about how you can recover quickly from that trauma of any kind of breakup. So as you can see there, Daily Telegraph, Closer. If you go on to the next slide, you'll see that there's also some other media opportunities there. So yeah, that's me on Victoria Derbyshire Live. I've also done This Morning, had my own TV show called Heartbreak Hotel over in Ireland, and a few guests on some other shows as well. So I also do a lot of radio, and radio as a coach is something that is super accessible for you because they always need guests to comment on topics. Okay, and I'm going to show you when you get your niche area that is your expertise. So I know some of you might be business coaches or health coaches, nutrition coaches. Some of you be relationship coaches. Some of you hopefully are breakup and divorce coaches. All that is super, super, super amazing stuff. You're the expert in your area, then people will want to hear about you. So using the press and the media is also very good. One of the most important things to me that I do is that I am the patron for the Dash charity, which is a domestic abuse charity. And we have refuges for women and children to escape to from domestic violence. And we also have a support team who work with the local communities to help you sort of, if you're going through that kind of thing, to get the support you need from your local services as well, and emotionally support you through it. So that is something I'm super, as a survivor of abuse, that is something that's very close to my heart. So again, if you're a coach and you've got a passion or there's something there where you want to give back at all, then, getting involved with a charity is something also that, you can help a lot of people with your skill sets. You can also do that, which is very rewarding. So I would recommend that too. Okay, so the thing is, as a coach, there are so many things to do. You can go this way, that way, the other way, backwards, forwards. Which way do you go? I mean, there are so many things you could do. People say you should do. I'm not a big fan of should. And I think it's difficult because there's so much information out there. How do you clear a way so that you can excel at being the best coach you can be? Okay, and that's what I want to talk about today. How are you the best coach you can be? So we go on to the next slide. We talk about how do you apply what you know? Now, are you one of these people who has done so many courses? You might have been on a training course. I did NLP, I did hypnotherapy, and I absolutely recommend you do those courses because they are really helpful. I did coaching courses. I did so many different courses. I can't even remember the courses I did. I've got a wall full of certificates of courses that I did. But the challenge is, how do you apply that? Because it's very specific, isn't it? You can have all the qualifications, but I can tell you that I have phone calls with coaches every day who phone me and say, Sarah, the thing is, I'm a coach, but I still not really sure what to say to a client. I've got all these techniques. I know my submodalities, and I know anchoring, and I know this, and they have all these techniques, which are great. And I've got the grow model. I've got this, I've got that. But how do I apply it? I still don't know what to say when a client's actually sat in front of me. And that's quite scary because as a coach, that's what you need to be able to do. Okay. So if we go on to the next slide, and I was in this position as well. I had read thousands of books. I've been on so many seminars by every personal development speaker going. I was lucky enough to train with Paul McKenna, Richard Bandler. I did their NLP programs, which I highly recommend. And I know the best you do run those as well. And I did a lot of work with Anthony Robbins. I traveled the world doing all his seminars at a very young age. I was in my very early 20s, late teens, early 20s. And I also worked with people like Michael Neal, the Barefoot Doctor. So I was immersed in personal development from a very young age. So I kind of walk, talk, breathe it. And Bernardo Moya, who obviously runs the Best You, he calls me an NLP geek because I am. I'm a total NLP geek. I love it and I use it. But the challenge is, when people come to me and say, Sarah, I've got the fear that I'm going to get brain freeze when I have a client sat in front of me. Have you ever had that? Have you ever actually experienced it, or have you just had the fear, which actually will stop you from standing up and delivering, right? It will stop you from being the coach. It will stop you from getting those clients. It'll stop you maybe from putting the adverts out or telling people because you're scared. Now, this is really normal, okay? All coaches get it at some point in their career, some all the way through. But what I want you to know is that there are ways you can dial down that fear, okay? There are ways you can dial it down that you can really, really, really get your confidence up and start feeling good. Okay, so next slide, please. So once you've conquered the skill side of it, you also know it's imperative that we learn how to grow a business. And I was out for my run this morning and I was listening to a podcast about entrepreneurs and being an entrepreneur and the skills. I think Michelle Mone was being interviewed as well for some of it. And I thought it's really interesting, actually, because as a coach, we may be great at empathy. You might have the toolkit. You might know exactly what to do to help somebody get those fast positive changes. But if you don't know how to grow a business, like I said before, you could be the best coach in the world. You could be outstanding. But if nobody knows you're there, you're not. It's useless because you're not going to get any clients. You won't be able to use your skills. And you as well won't be fulfilled. And you won't be living your dream or having a business that you love. So being an entrepreneur, having your own business, how to grow it, I know it scares a lot of people. A lot of people aren't comfortable selling themselves or putting themselves forward or doing a webinar or a video. And that's okay. There are different ways to grow a business. Okay. There are different ways, to suit every personality style. There are different ways. The important thing is you realize that it's not just all about the coaching to have a successful coaching business. You also need to understand how to grow your business, which is fundamental. And I'm going to share some tips and tools on that today. Obviously, there are so many that I teach, but yes, thank you. So shortcutting and fast tracking, that's what this is about today. I'm going to share with you some tools and some techniques that are going to shortcut and fast track, all the thousands and thousands, I don't know how many, tens of thousands of pounds I've spent on training, on traveling to training courses, going through the seminars, the hours, the weeks, the months I've spent immersing myself for the last 25 years. I've been coaching for 25 years. And what I'm going to do today and what I do in my coaching programs is I fast track all that for you. So you don't have to spend all the money, I spend all the time, and all the stress of looking and testing things out. I'm going to share with you what works. Okay. I'm going to cut to it. I'm not going to teach you how to be a good coach or an average coach. No. I'm going to give you the tools to be an outstanding coach so that you can go out there and really make a difference, a positive difference for your clients. Okay. And I'm going to show you the fastest way to grow your business using some of the tools I've already shown you that I've used in my portfolio. Okay, so shall we start? I'm going to share my 5 secrets with you on how to grow your business. And the number one secret, guys, above all else, is be yourself. Now, I learned this the hard way because I started out at my first ever personal development seminar was with Anthony Robbins, the 6'7" American giant, huge male on stage, jumping around, loads of energy. Now I thought, wow, that's amazing. I love this. I want to be more like him. Now I'm 5'5", English, not the same size at all. And very different. So I could never be him. Okay. And to be honest, Tony's got that down. Okay. He's a superstar, a rock star, and he really knows his stuff. But I was inspired by him. Okay. But that's great. You can be inspired by people, but then look at what it is about that person that inspires you and see how you can highlight that in your own personality. Because when you're trying to be something you're not, trying to be like someone else, that's what slows you down. It's almost getting in your own way. I then started training with the amazing Paul McKenna, who, is an incredible genius of a personal development leader in his field. And again, Paul is super funny. I don't know if you've ever seen him. I recommend you do. He's got a great podcast called Positivity Podcast. I listen to a lot of my mornings when I'm going for my run. I'm listening to Paul. He's brilliant. However, Paul is very funny. He's like a comedian. Like he could be a comedian. He's extremely funny, very witty, super intelligent, genius levels. And that's not me. Okay. I was never anywhere near genius. In fact, I was boss of the class and everything. And I'm not particularly funny either. Not like Paul's super sharp wit, really funny, lots of great banter. So again, I couldn't do that. And I was getting frustrated going, well, I can't really be like that. So actually it was only when I realized it was okay to be me. And that's what I want to share with you. It's okay to be you. It's okay. The things you're not great at. I mean, I've got a terrible memory, for example, like a memory like a sieve. So I've put in place things to help me when you see clients. You've got to remember, obviously, what they said for their follow-up sessions. So taking good notes, I've learned to do that. But I'm not beating myself up because I don't keep it all in my head. In fact, as a coach, sometimes it turns out that not having a great memory is quite good because you can't hold it in your head and ruminate over things, okay? Some of my coaches do get stuck in that. So I've got techniques for releasing that too. So figure out what your weaknesses are. That's okay. Either try and do some work to improve them or give it to somebody else to do, okay? But I want you to be you. It's the only way you're going to create a business that you love is that when you get up in the morning, you think, oh my God, I can't wait to go to work. I can't wait to do this next bit. And that's what I want for you. And the only way you can do that is when you're truly in line with yourself. So incorporating your personality. So I had one of my coaches said to me early on in her training, she said, but Sarah, I'm not like you. I'm quite shy. I'm not confident. And I would hate to do a video or a webinar. And I said, well, that's okay. And she said, but I'm not going to get clients. I was like, no, there are lots of people that don't want to come to me because of my personality and they'd rather go to you. You will attract the people that are suited to you. Okay. There are, so many opportunities out there to grow your business. Okay. It's not about competition. It's not about competing with anybody else. It's about being true to yourself. When you find out who you are, your personality as a coach, how do you describe yourself? I mean, these sort of things are really important to build into and be true to you. Okay. So I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you start out by being yourself and not trying to be like anybody else. Create your own lane, stay in your lane. Do what you're good at. Focus on your skill set. Obviously, we learn as we go. Bring in new skills, add more opportunities to your business, but stay in your lane. Be true to you. And if something isn't right for you, don't do it. You don't have to do everything. You create a business that works for you. Is ultimately the key. Okay, that's my number one secret. My number two secret, find a niche. Now, I don't know if you've ever typed looking for a life coach into Google, but there are thousands, tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of different coaches that come up, because life coaching is a saturated market. Okay, there are lots of coaches out there, a lot of not so great coaches, a lot of okay coaches, average coaches, good coaches. That's the challenge. How do you tell as a client who you should go to? It's really, really tough. Okay, and a confused mind never buys. So if you are, as a client, looking at this thinking, oh, I'm confused, who's good, who's not, then you're probably not going to choose anyone. So the key is, if you can find a niche where you can put your head above the parapet and stand out from the crowd, then a client will see you. Now, once they've seen you and if they can understand clearly what it is you do, then you've increased your chances of being seen. Now, people say to me, so what's a niche? Well, a niche could be a business coach, or it could be a nutrition coach, or a breakup and divorce coach, right? Finding a niche. But then that's still quite broad. So you can deep dive into that a little bit further and have a specialist niche. So, for example, I deal with difficult divorces, high conflict, or coming out of a toxic relationship. Some of my other coaches have other niches. So they might do sort of health and well-being experts, so losing weight, something like that when you come out of a divorce. So having a niche within a niche, you can do that too. But having something that stands you out from the crowd, makes you different. Okay, don't blend in. You need to find a niche. It's got to be something you're passionate about. Because if you remember talking about creating a business you love, it's all about creating a business that you're passionate about. Something that means something to you. If you've walked in those shoes, if you've been through that trauma as a coach, I've got a client who's sadly her husband died, and it was tragic for her. She went through a lot of trauma. She had young kids at the time, and that was one of the worst experiences of her life. But what she's managed to do is flip that into something that is now actually becoming one of the most wonderful things, that in the way that she can now use that pain to help other people so that they're not suffering as she did. And she's learned some techniques and tools that she can do to manage that and to help other people. So sometimes the worst times in our life can turn out to be, some of the best experiences in the way that we carry on and build our lives. You can turn things around. That's not to diminish the impact of the trauma, but actually, if you've been through some tough times, it actually does make you more empowering as a coach. Imagine as a client going to find, for example, going to therapy. I went to therapy when I went through my divorce. I thought, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to go to therapy. Everyone says that's what you're supposed to do. I'm struggling. I'll go. And it used to upset me that my therapist went home to her lovely husband and 3 kids at the end of the day. And I was like, how can you really help me? Because you don't really know. Now, obviously, there's lots of amazing therapists that can do incredible things. For me, though, I really wanted somebody that knew what it was like, that really understood that some days you were doing okay, and maybe you didn't want to talk about it. But then other days you were on your knees. And sometimes you thought you were getting better, and then you slide backwards, and that's normal. So if you've been through something yourself, you have those personal experiences that you can bring to the table. So finding your niche, I would highly recommend you tap into your own personal experiences and put them to good use. What have you learned? Who have you become? What strengths have you gained from that experience? What are the pitfalls that other people should avoid? So finding your niche, something you're passionate about, will make you stand out in a crowded coaching market. So what's number 3? So next slide, please. Number 3 is a secret on becoming the expert. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, remember at the beginning of the presentation, I was talking about the media and that I've been in the press. So I'm probably in the press in the UK every month, but most weeks. There'll be something that's published where I've got a comment in it, or I've been on the radio, or there's a blog or something that has my comments in it. And that's because I've established myself as an expert in my field. Now, when you become an expert in your field, it's a great way to attract clients. your ideal clients. Because when you're writing these comments and writing these, when you're giving your comments and writing your articles, obviously that's your opinion. So people that have synergy with you and your topics are going to find you. Okay, so becoming the expert just again gives you an extra edge. So when you've got your niche and you've defined it, then work out, how do you become the expert? Now, you can write press releases. There are so many places that cry out for free content. Okay, don't expect to get paid for this, by the way, because that's not how it works. It's a win-win for both of you. You're giving your expertise, your content, and then in return, they're going to publish it, which is going to get views. And what happens when you get views is you get people who are interested in what you're doing, thinks, actually, you know what, I might contact you. Now, PR doesn't work instantly. PR, having magazine articles and things, is something you put out there, and over time, you know, I have people that said, well, I saw you in the Telegraph about 4 or 5 years ago, and then I saw something about your book in the Daily Mail, and then I saw something else, and then actually I thought, actually, I'm going to come and see you now. So it can take time, but what you're doing is you're building awareness, and that is key. Okay, so, and again, you're distinguishing yourself as the expert. Now, having a niche does not restrict you coaching on all areas, by the way. What it does is it gets your clients in the filter. And then actually what you'll find is when you start to talk to them, especially about breakups and divorce, they come to you for your breakup and the breakup and divorce they're going through. But then what happens? Well, they need to set up an extra income stream, start their own business. They need help with parenting or confidence and dating. So you become all kinds of coaches, a love coach, a business coach, you know, your general life coaching, your fitness or health. You know, I mean, obviously you're not an expert in all these areas, but maybe you have experts in your portfolio that can also help your client too. So there's a lot of synergy there, but don't think that you restrict yourself, because you don't. And also just know, I had a comment the other day on Facebook. Someone said, why do you give away so much free content? There's no point coming to see you because I've just given it away for free in this video. And it's interesting because I believe that the more free content you give, the more you're there to show that, you know, you want to help and that you have got some good content, the more you build trust. Okay. And the more people can see that you've got integrity, that, you know, see whether they gel with you or not. No, I can tell you now, not everyone's going to like you. That's just not the way it is. So don't go in with hoping that everyone's going to like you, because they won't. You know, if you put your head above the parapet, as I'm talking about, you are going to get trolled. Welcome to the world of social media. You are going to get unkind comments. You are going to take a few gut punches when you get up in the morning and see what someone's written. And you think, wow, whew, okay, you took the time to write that, did you? That's impressive. So, you know, you are going to get that too, but you're also going to get people saying, you know what, this coach really knows their stuff. And I would actually like them to tailor their advice to me, to my situation. Because you can't do that. You know, even in a live webinar, people are asking questions. You get such a short snippet. I know I was on this morning with Holly and Phil, and I was doing a live phone in, and one girl phoned in and said, oh, I just had my baby, and my boyfriend's run off with my best friend. You know, and I had 2 minutes to give advice live. And obviously you can't solve those problems in that short space of time. So when you're giving away information, you know, people will go, well, actually, I need a bit more, or I need her to tailor that a little bit to me. Well, they might take what you said, try it out, and go, that works, I want more. So don't be afraid, okay? Because becoming the expert and giving this content away means that, you know, it has the opposite effect to how you might think, okay? Put the fear away, okay? Because the more fear you carry, the less you're going to do things. Try it out, give it a go, and see. I promise you it will make some shifts for you. By the way, the girl that phoned up, I coached her pro bono for a while after the show, because obviously it was a big deal, and I couldn't help her in 2 minutes on live TV. So yeah, so I mean, sometimes, you know, going the extra mile helps, but she was very grateful, and she's a very sweet person, and it's nice as a coach when you've got those skills to be able to do those kind of things, right? So, okay, so number 4, what is the next secret that I'm sharing with you today? Well, it's learn the skills you need. Okay, you know, being a coach, as you will hopefully know, is not just about being empathetic and listening, because your best mate can do that in the pub. Okay, being a coach is about learning the skills and tools you need. So, for example, for me, a lot of the stuff that I share and I teach is NLP based, neuro linguistic programming. It's the sort of science behind how your brain works. So giving you the remote control to your brain so that you can control and get back in the driving seat again. So, learn from people that have the skills, learn the skills that you really want. I'm a big believer of going to, the people that created things. Like, obviously Richard Bandler is the founder of NLP. So awesome. Go to him. I think he's amazing. Learn from him. But obviously you don't have to do that. You've got to use whatever you feel that you're more comfortable with. But I'm a big believer you've got to get the tools. So one of my tools is your people reading radar. It's like becoming Sherlock Holmes, I call it. Okay. And I teach all my coaches to be able, when they see someone, to be able to see more than what you would normally just glance at. Okay. We're looking for, I ask them, well, what's his name? Like, well, I don't know what his name is. I'm pointing at strangers that quite often will go to a coffee shop when we're allowed, with a lot of traffic, people walking up and down outside. And I'll be like, tell me what you can tell me about that person. And at first they go, well, I don't know. What do you want? And I'm like, tell me his name. Tell me how old he is. Tell me what you think he does for a living. Is he married? Does he have kids? What is he interested in? And then we get into how's he feeling? Then we get into, what's going on in his life right now. Because you can tell a lot. Now, obviously, there's no right or wrong for this unless you actually grab the poor person off the street and say, can you just tell us this? Which probably isn't the right thing to do. But by practicing tuning in, you will start to notice the details. I call it my people reading radar. And it's an ability just to practice sort of zapping people so you get that information from them really early on, which then helps you make a more informed decision. Now, don't make assumptions. That's another big thing. We can't make assumptions about people. We can't put our own map of the world. Well, if my face was like that, I had a kind, and she said, well, she's obviously just really angry. And I was like, well, why do you say that? She goes, well, her face is just like a bit scowly. And I said, right, okay. She said, well, if I was doing that, that would mean I was really angry, like really kind of in a bitchy mood. And I said, well, I think she's quite relaxed because she was actually just chilling out in a coffee shop in the one we were in. I said, I think she has what was known as resting bitch face, which is an unfortunate, in some ways, affliction where you kind of look like you're scowling and bitchy when you're not. That's just your relaxed face. So, you can't assume, okay, but you can get good at working out when you might be wrong or might be not. And just figuring out those little nuances, okay? Because if you start to notice them, then they become tools in your toolkit. So learning these kind of skills as a coach is absolutely vital, because if you don't have the skills, you can be the nicest, most empathetic person in the world, but you're not going to get those fast transformational changes that we want to see with our clients, okay? Right, so number 5. Now, this is one of the biggest mistakes I see with all coaches. Branding, because most coaches don't have a brand. Most coaches are just them doing their thing. And I've had people say, but I'm not a corporate, so I'm not a big multinational. It's just me. I'm not McDonald's. I'm not Coca-Cola. It doesn't matter. A brand is vital, okay? Again, to give you a level of professionalism, something that a client can hook onto, that they can recognize. Remember, people don't buy from the first time they see you. So if they see you once and your brand's one way, and then they see you another and you're done something else and then something else, they're not going to necessarily put those things together. So actually having a consistent brand that does what it says on the tin, okay? There's no point in having a brand call it something like revolution. Well, it's a great word, right? Revolution. But you could be, a protester. You could be, a philanthropist. You could do, it doesn't say what you do. Okay. So what I'd love for you is to create a brand that does what it says on the tin. So there's no confusion. Remember what we said before, confused mind never buys. So if you're going to put your head above the parapet and someone sees you, they've got to be able to go, oh, I know what they do. I know what that coach does. Got it. Brilliant. Okay. Well, that's clear. Clarity is really key here. Okay. And then it has to flow through everything. Your brand has to flow through everything you do. Okay, now branding is something that you do not need a big agency to do. Okay, it doesn't really cost you a lot of money. What I would recommend is you do it for yourself. And I can teach you in detail how to do this. And I do in my program, my Breakup Divorce Coach Practitioner program. But in a nutshell, I talk to you about thinking about the words that reflect you. Because again, this has got to be you being you, okay? So it's got to reflect you and what you're doing. You know, if you are, you know, a business coach, then you may not want pink as your logo because it's maybe not particularly a corporate color. Whereas, you know, if you're targeting women only, pink, and you're doing sort of more sort of women coaching, sort of personal issues, then that might be more appropriate. But it wouldn't be if you wanted to attract men. Do you see what I mean? So you've got to really think about who you are. Write down some words that describe who you are as a coach, what you want your business to represent. And then with that, you can create a brief, which you can give to a designer to come up with a logo that reflects who you are, does what it says on the tin, but also is a complete, consistent reflection all the way through every single thing you do, from your website to your business cards, to your online products, to your books, whatever you're creating, okay? So brand is absolutely key. Please don't miss it. Please don't forget it. Please don't think it's not important. It's super, super, super important. One of the most important parts of being a successful coach, okay? And that makes it much easier to gain momentum then, because as you start adding other products, the synergy grows. And if you're going to have like a global suite of products, it's really important that people can see that consistency. Okay, now I have a bonus secret that I want to share with you, which is on the next slide. So my bonus secret for you is that if you are going to, if we can change the slide, thank you. Yeah, if you are going to grow your business, you need oomph and gumption. Well, I know they're peculiar words, but I like to be a bit different. If you hadn't noticed, being different is great. Embrace what's different about you, harness it and make the most of it. But oomph and gumption are really important, because this, building a coaching business, being a successful coach takes hard work. Being successful takes dedication. I mean, absolute obsession with what you're doing. You've got to love it. You've got to immerse yourself in it, and you've got to work hard. People look at successful coaches and say, gosh, it's easy for you. I've been in the industry 25 years. It takes time. These things take time, but you can fast track them, as I've shown you. I wish that someone had taught me how to fast track success and taught me the things I'm teaching my coaches now 25 years ago, because it would have saved me a lot of wasted time and effort. I've learned from that. I've grown stronger from it. Those frustrations and setbacks always were a learning experience, but having that oomph and gumption got me through those. To get, well, I've got to try something else. Well, I'll do it a slightly different way. Learn from other people, but have your own oomph and gumption, because trusting your own instinct, believing in yourself, and stepping up and saying, I can do this. I can be this. Believe in yourself. Self-belief is one of the most powerful propellants to move you forward, okay? As is failure sometimes. And failure is in I'm just a complete lost cause, because sometimes it can feel like that, right? But actually looking at it and going, well, I tried that and it didn't work. Like, for example, when I was in my early 20s with my first coaching business, it was called Open Minds International. So you see, I already had the international in there back then, 25 years ago. But that business, I decided that I would hire a call center. This is before emails, by the way. It was all sort of direct mail and things like that, and advertising in newspapers. So I thought, I'm gonna blow my budget, and I'm gonna put a big half-page ad in the Sunday Times, and I'm gonna have a number on there for people to call. They call a call center to book on to come to this. I was running an event, so I was really excited. I got it all set up. I thought it was going to be amazing. And on Sunday, I thought, this is it. This is going to be so successful. I'm going to get people into this event, and then it's going to change my business. We got 2 calls all Sunday. I was literally devastated. I'd spent £5,000, which back then was a lot of money. I mean, now it's still a lot of money, but back then it was crazy. And I had to pay the call center as well on top of that to open up on a Sunday. And I trained them all, and oh my goodness. So yeah, you learn from those mistakes. You learn what works, what doesn't work. But that is where you overcome those failures. But you need that self-belief, that gumption, and that oomph behind you. So I'm not giving up. I'm never going to quit. I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I know from working with some amazing personal development speakers and, self-help leaders in the world, that they've all been there and done the same thing. You keep going, but it needs to come from within you. So let's look at the next slide, please. because we are very lucky as coaches to be able to use our skill sets to create transformations. And a lot of what we teach is transferable, right? I mean, I've been doing free webinars for people to help them cope with COVID, because it's very similar to the skills you use to help someone cope with a breakup. You can't speak to your loved ones, you're isolated, you've got to build your self-reliance, you've got to pick yourself up, you've got to keep self-motivated. You've got to watch what you're eating and exercise and what you're feeding your brain. So they're all very transferable skills for anyone in life, which is the beauty of coaching. And we get the privilege to create those transformations. It is the most rewarding career I could ever imagine. So if we go on to the next slide, please. So it's a fantastic career. You will absolutely get so much out of it too. There are, as I've shown you, lots of different ways to grow a business so that you create multiple income streams, so that it's not just a one-to-one and you only get paid for your time. And I show you how to do that in my Breakup and Divorce Coach Practitioner Accreditation Program. Now, the accreditation is just for me because, as you know, hopefully, that coaching, unfortunately, is not regulated in the UK. But I think it helps to have like an accreditation stamp to say that I've trained with a leading expert. So it's an online program. It is video based. So you can go through it at your own pace, your own time from home. But it is supported every couple of weeks, if not more, with live free webinars with me. So it's either me taking your questions, so you get access to me, you get access to ask me questions about your business. If you can't make some of the webinars, you can still submit your questions and I answer them. It's all recorded and put up in the Facebook community private page. I get experts in, I take themes. So there's ongoing live training with me, as well as support from the other coaches. We do a lot of fun things. And I have a special offer for the show. If you want to go on to the next slide, I have put together a special offer, which basically means that you save £1,000. So anyone that is watching this right now, or you're thinking about becoming a coach, I've got a special offer for the show. It's normally £2,997. There are payment plans available, but at the moment I'm offering it for £1,997. So you're saving £1,000 off the price. And again, there are still payment plans available on the £1,997. You can pay over 6 months, which is only, I think it's $347 a month. And you get instant access to the whole program and the support community. And, my job is to get you up and running so that when you finish the program, and some people at the moment plowing through it in 3 to 4 weeks with furlough and not working, other people take, 4 to 5 months. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. There's no deadline. There's no pressure, but it's there to work forward through. And there are so many opportunities right now for coaches, especially in this niche. It's a fast growing niche because there are a lot of breakups right now. COVID has put a lot of pressure on relationships. So if you're thinking about a niche, it is a very interesting one to be getting into right now. There are so many opportunities. And if you can't make a coaching business in breakup and divorce work in 2021 with everything that's going on, then it's a fantastic year to invest in this, into training yourself, to give yourself the skills. Someone dubbed it a business in a box the other day. They said to me, Sarah, literally as soon as I did my program, I was ready to start coaching, because it's not just about becoming a coach or giving you the skills to become a breakup and divorce coach. It's also about growing a business. And I give you those skills to grow your business as well. So you get the whole thing. If we go on to the next slide, there's a picture of one of my coaches who did the program about 2 years ago. She's now, she won an award within a couple of months of being the National Business Women's Award. She was the winner, and she's gone on to achieve more awards and more success ever since. She's got her own program. She does her own thing. She's very successful just in 2 years from doing the program, from never having coached a day in her life before. So, if you have that oomph and gumption, then you can turn it around and do amazing things. If you go on to my final slide, just to finish off, with oomph and gumption, anything is possible. So for more information on me, do check out my website, sarahdavison.com. Drop me an email. If you check out my website, there's free webinars on my training program. I also have free guides to help you if you're heartbroken and struggling with that right now. So do check it out, and I really look forward to hearing from you. I hope you've got lots from it. Go blow the doors off and grow your coaching business that you love.
Excellent, Sarah. Thank you very much. That was, some really good.
Hello, Sarah.
Hello. Thank
Hello,
you. No,
Sarah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah, yeah. I think there's a delay on your internet, but yeah.
Listen,
I'm hosting tomorrow as well, like you guys. So I'm really looking forward to how's your hosting going?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's great fun to meet all these speakers and to interact and just be through the whole day and learn so much. And in your speech there or in your talk, it's really the parts of showing up authentically and being your passionate self are so important, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of people think they have to become somebody else to be good at what they do. And it's interesting because it's the absolute opposite. Being true to you and just doesn't matter, just be yourself. And some people might think you're a bit crazy, but I've always told my son, crazy's good. It doesn't matter. Just be yourself. As long as you're kind and you come from the right place, then it's cool. Just embrace being different. And different is good.
Yeah, I tell my girls all the time that if you're not a little bit weird, you're not trying hard enough.
I love that. I'm definitely going to steal that one and give it to my son when I see it.
Please do. Use it as you like. But no, it is really good advice, and this package you offering is it looks to be full of some really good practical stuff that someone can essentially go into it and then come out with a business on the other end. And this year, so many people have started businesses and pivoted. I've certainly pivoted. I used to do a lot of consulting in motorsport in events in motorsport, and all those contracts have disappeared. So I'm forging ahead full steam with coaching and transformation and business consulting. So that's awesome. You're doing really a good service there, Sarah. Thank you.
No, thanks, Christopher. No, I love it. And I think that's half of it. If you love what you do, then that makes it not really a job. But I always think that coaching is more of a lifestyle than a job. Definitely. Because it's all consuming. You have clients at the weekends, evenings, it's just a lifestyle. But that's why it has to come from here.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think Sarah as well, you'll know this, when you start to interact with people and you start to give of yourself, the old adage that, what you give out, you get back, or, you get back 1,000-fold. And I think, when you're doing coaching and when you're passionate about coaching and you watch the transformation in people, and it's just an incredible journey. And it's just interesting because going back to the start, when you were doing all of your earlier days, most stuff probably would have been physical, as in people actually had to show up at retreats, So how have your clients found moving to the virtual experience? Has that been equally as effective for you as opposed to just being actually present?
Yeah, I think it's great for coaches in a lot of ways because people are a lot more comfortable with Zoom now. So you don't get those excuses that are, well, you live a bit far from me. Do you know anyone that's closer? Or, well, I'm busy that day. I don't know what time to travel. So we kind of skipped all that. So I think for coaches as a whole in the industry, it actually has had a positive effect. Me personally, I love coaching face-to-face. I love running my live breakout recovery retreats. That's my favorite thing I do. So I miss that. I miss actually giving someone a hug at a retreat because, it's part of it, isn't it? Having that human contact. But I'm looking forward to getting back to it. But I think as coaches, it's opened up more opportunities. So I've taken my retreats virtually now so I'm doing live webinars with video products to support. So it's a different style of learning. Some people prefer it. I like both. So, I think it's great for coaching.
Yeah. No, it's been interesting. And I think the feedback in terms of, I think even coaches themselves have been astounded about how effective they've been able to be in this virtual environment, so certainly it's transformational. But Sarah, I have to say, I was just blown away by what I was listening to and what I was hearing, when even your own experiences, how you've moved and evolved, it's just incredible, so I'm sure anyone who picks up on those courses will get that energy, get that excitement and help them be successful,
Yeah, thank you. No, I think, that everyone says, sorry, you're obviously very passionate about this, but this is what I love to do. And I've got an amazing group of coaches in our community. And, to do what we do, to be a coach, you've got to kind of be warm and friendly. So we're lucky that we get to work with, like you guys, amazing people every day. So, my clients inspire me just as much as hopefully I can inspire them. So it's win-win for everyone.
Sure is. So we thank you, Sarah, for your time and for your presentation. And
thanks,
people
guys.
can see you on here tomorrow. Or are you on the women's stage tomorrow? Or
no, I'm on the Love Without Limits panel tomorrow. After lunch, and then I'm hosting here in this room all day. So I'm very excited. I will learn from you guys, and big shoes to fill, but I will be there tomorrow.
Oh, you'll do fine, I'm sure.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay. So I think, Christopher, we're moving now to another commercial, and then we've got some real exciting stuff coming up straight after the commercial with Michael Neal. So we'll be back in just a few moments, guys, and share with you who is one of the biggest players when it comes to coaching and NLP ambassadors that there are across the world today. So we'll be back in just a few minutes, and we'll share you some exciting news with a gentleman called Michael Neal.
My passion is to set people free by helping you transform any area of your life more effectively and faster than anything you've tried before. I do this by unique abilities gifted to me through 2 near-death experiences that allow me to help you change your frequency, changing your life.
Okay, so Hugh, do you want to introduce Michael Neal, and we'll go to...
Yes, we'll do that. And before we do that, Christopher, how have you been enjoying the experience? Both as a speaker and as a host. There's been some incredible people to listen to so far already.
Well, that's it. You enter yourself into this collective energy, and you just feed off of it. It just inspires you to continue and coming in, talking or doing a talk during this presentation. Hearing all these other people, you just come up with new ideas, you come up with new concepts, new philosophies, and truly inspiring. And I'm sure you would resonate with that, Hugh.
Oh yeah, just been incredible, guys. And that leads us on to something that's I'm genuinely excited to be actually able to introduce and someone, and that person is Michael Neal. And Michael, my first ever book on NLP, Michael was involved and put it forward together, and he was the coach of my first introduction to NLP through Paul McKenna some 17 years ago. So I've followed closely. I've read a number of his books. I see that he has done a number of TED Talks, which I have missed out on, so I'm certainly going to be looking forward to those. But guys, if you're interested in how to develop yourself and how to develop your inner self, and people often say to me, well, Hugh, how do you best describe NLP? And I talk about NLP as being something, for me, it's common sense consciously applied, which in today's climate is far removed in many people's lives. So I'm going to say to you just to sit back, chill out, and enjoy the next 45 minutes, because you're going to hear from one of the leaders in NLP around the world, one of the biggest coaches in NLP around the world, a true international bestseller of over 30 years, and that's Michael Neal. So we'll be back with you after this. Over to Michael.
To be joining you here as part of the best you, and albeit I'd prefer to be joining you, but we're gonna take what we can get. And Bernardo asked me, he said, what would you love to talk about? What do you think would be most helpful to people that you could speak to? And I sat with it. And at a certain point, it became obvious to me that the most useful thing that I probably could speak to you about are the four things that I've seen. I call them the four killers. I sometimes call them the four horsemen of the mental apocalypse, but for today, I'm going to call them the four killers. And these are the four states of mind, the four experiences that we have in our body that we tend to use to take ourselves out of the game, or to not even get into a game in the first place. Now, if you're wondering, well, I'm not playing a game, I'm using the game to mean anything from the game of life to the game of business to the game of relationships to anything that you would take on and be a part of and throw yourself into in the world. So the problem that's been happening, that I've been seeing over the last year or so, since the pandemic hit and quarantines hit, and the world has changed, is that people are more willing than ever to take themselves out of the game because everyone now agrees with you. Like if you tried to drop out of the game when everything seemed to be kind of going well on the outside world, probably people would have talked you out of it. They were, oh, no, stick with it. Look, it's this, it's good, it's great. But now you go, I'm thinking of dropping out, and everybody's like, yeah, me too. Right? And what I'm hoping for, what I want for you, is that by the time we're done talking right now, the only reason you would take yourself out of the game is if you fundamentally knew you just didn't want to play anymore. Not that you couldn't, not that you shouldn't, but if you get really clean and clear that you want to go on and play different games, go for it. But I'm going to speak to you on the assumption that there are some games you're playing that if you felt like you could stay in the game, you'd really like to keep playing, regardless of the economy, regardless of the pandemic, and regardless of what else might be around the corner that we don't even know about yet. Now, one of the first models that I saw for performance came from the inner game coach, W. Timothy Galway. And it's a very simple formula. And it starts with a P for performance. And he said, performance equals potential minus interference. So our level of performance is our potential, which in the abstract is unlimited, but in any given game, there may be some limitations on it. If you have one leg and you want the game of playing Tarzan, you're starting at perhaps not the same potential as everybody else, but in most things, we're potential. And what I mean by effectively an unlimited potential is there might be an edge, but you're unlikely to get anywhere close to it. So if your level of performance is your potential minus interference, then the variable where we've got the most control is interference. If we can get things out of our way, if we can get out of our own way more readily and more easily, we automatically begin to perform at a higher level. And when we're performing at a higher level, we tend to enjoy the game more. And when we're enjoying the game and performing at a high level, we kind of want to stay in the game. So not only will these kind of four types of interference that I'm going to be sharing, these four killers, these four horsemen of the mental apocalypse, not only are they things that when you see through them, when you see past them, when they stop seeming like insurmountable problems, you're more inclined to stay in the game. You're less inclined to take yourself out of the game. You also play the game better. So the first one is fear. And there's a wonderful, I printed this off. This is from the book Dune by Frank Herbert. And you may have seen, there's been a few movie versions of it. And this is the litany against fear. And the warriors train themselves and they recite this litany. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me, and when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to guess there have been times in the last week where you have felt fear. Now, maybe not, but it's a pretty safe guess, because most of us spend huge chunks of our life in fear. And particularly if we're high achievers, particularly if we're high performers, particularly if we play games that are bigger than us. And probably if you're doing a conference with something called The Best You, that's you. So probably you experience fear. Now, here's why fear is problematic when it's problematic. Most of us have been taught that fear is a signal that we either shouldn't do something or we must, right? If you've ever been on a Tony Robbins seminar, you've probably heard him say, if you can't, you must. But then for anyone who hasn't been on a Tony Robbins seminar, they just go, I'm scared, I'm out, right? I don't want to do it. And I used to cure phobias as part of my work. That was actually how I first met Bernardo, doing sort of these large NLP seminars with Paul McKenna and Richard Bandler. And one of the things we would do is we would take on phobias. We would take on people's fears. And I had a really interesting experience one day during one of these seminars. We were working with fear of public speaking, phobias of public speaking, because the people who were coming they weren't just like a little afraid. Like the very idea of public speaking made them want to vomit. Maybe that fits you. It actually fits a surprising amount of people. There's a great line that you probably have come across the research that in polls they found that the number one fear was public speaking. The number two fear was death, which, according to the comedian Jerry Seinfeld, meant that at any given funeral, most people would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. But we were working with public speaking phobias, and Paul did, somebody came up and they were, how scared are you on a scale from 1 to 10? 10! And Paul worked with them and got the guy quite quickly down to a 3. Terrified to okay in a really short space of time. But then Paul, being kind of committed to this person, said, no, we're going to get you from a 3 down to a 1, and worked with him for another hour. And I don't know, honestly, if the guy really got down to a 1 or if he just got kind of sick of being up on stage after an hour and kind of went, yeah, I'm a 1. But what was interesting to me was I realized while I was watching this, hang on, I've been speaking publicly since I was a kid. Like I actually got through high school doing public speaking competitions, and I got a scholarship to university for public speaking. And it was something that I loved doing and I was good at, but I was always a little scared when I did it. I would probably, it's interesting. I had just sort of assumed that it's bad to feel fear at all. I hadn't seen that actually fear, once it's below a certain level, it's kind of irrelevant. It's like sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. No big deal. Good morning shuts us down. Now, I want you to do a little experiment if you're up for it, and you might find it scary, but that's okay. It's something that if you're up for doing it, will give you a chance. I'm going to give you some background. So, well, actually, let me tell you what I'm going to ask you to do first. What I'm going to ask you to do in a minute is scare yourself. And there's a little more to the instructions, but I want you to scare yourself in a minute. You don't have to do it yet. But I want to point out before you do that there's no such thing as fear. Now, what do you mean by that? What does he mean by that? We've just been talking about fear. He's just been talking about he's got the mind killer. What do you mean there's no such thing as fear? Well, literally, outside of language, there's no such thing as fear. There's such a thing as a pen, right? There's such a thing as a microphone, but there's no such thing as fear. Fear is a word. It's a type of word that in transformational grammar is called a nominalization. It's an activity, a process that we talk about as if it's a thing. So the basic test in language for a nominalization is, can you put it in a wheelbarrow? So I can put a pen in a wheelbarrow. It has a limitation if you don't quite understand it, because I explained this to my son once and he said, well, wait, how big's the wheelbarrow? Because like I can't fit a piano in a small wheelbarrow. No, it's abstract. We talk about these creations in ourselves like fear as if they're things, but fear is just the process of scaring ourselves. And the way that we scare ourselves is scary thoughts. And some of us are so good at it. We've done it so often over so long that we don't even notice that we're involved anymore. We don't, oh, I'm not thinking, I just got scared. I just saw that and got scared. I just thought about a tiger and got scared. I just thought about. But the key is you thought about it. And that's how we create this adrenaline rush that we call fear when we think it's caused by something we don't like. So think it through for yourself, right? There are some kinds of adrenaline rush you pay money for, right? You probably have gone to scary movies and you've paid money to go on a roller coaster or a similar ride at an amusement park. Well, that's the same adrenaline rush. Why do we cultivate it there? Because we're up for it because we kind of fundamentally know we're going to be okay. No matter how scary the movie is, it's really unlikely the monster is going to come off the screen and get us. No matter how scary the ride is, we kind of bank on the fact that the amusement park wouldn't stay open if the roller coaster kept actually coming off the tracks. So at some level, underneath all the scary thinking about, oh, what if this happens? We kind of know it's not going to happen. And so we're fine with fear. In fact, we almost chase after it. But if we think the cause is real, well, then we want to avoid it. So let's try the experiment. Okay, maybe you already did while I was talking, but if you didn't, take a minute right now to scare yourself. And you'll probably find it a little bit harder than you think, even if you're a scaredy cat like me. Like I've spent most of my life scared of my own shadow, but sometimes it's hard when you're trying to do it on purpose. But think of things that scare you until you get at least a bit of that feeling in your body. And what I want you to do when you get a bit of that feeling in your body is I want you to point to where in your body it is. Like for me, like I've just thought about money, right? That's a good one for me if I want to scare myself. I sometimes can scare myself with health or relationship, but money's a good one for me. And when I start thinking about money in a scary way, I can feel the back of my neck tighten up. Now, when you feel the sensations in your body of fear, I want you to point to it. But then what I want you to do is stop thinking about it and just stay with the sensation and notice what happens. Now, nearly everybody I do this experiment with, can generate at least some amount of fear. But B, when they stay with the sensation, they notice that quite quickly, the sensation just begins to pass. It begins to pass through, like in the litany. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. That's the sensation of it. The thought passes through, the sensation passes through, and when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. We start to look and see, well, where did it go? I was scared a minute ago, or I felt the sensations of fear a minute ago. Where's it gone? And where the fear is gone, there will be nothing. Only I remain. And there's nothing because the fear is the add-on. The fear is what we've created on top of our fundamental okayness. are fun, that it comes at us, that it is a property of things in the world. Like this is scary, that is scary, this situation is scary, that situation is scary. We have no choice but to either be brave, feel the fear, and do it anyways, or try and avoid or manipulate the situation that we think is scary. When you start to see that all fear is made of thought, for yourself, because you can just get in touch with the sensation of it, the feeling of it, and let it pass through. And when it passes through, only you remain. No fear. Now, but in me, I still got some. That's okay. You'll be okay. You've had fear in your body before, because it's not really fear in your body. It's adrenaline. Adrenaline's a funny old drug, right? Adrenaline will restart a heart that stopped. In an actual danger situation, adrenaline is your best friend. If there's actual danger, adrenaline lets you run faster, it makes you stronger, it sharpens your mind. But we tend to give ourselves these constant little doses of adrenaline. It's not like when there's a real danger and your biology takes over and deals with it. And if you've ever been in a life or death situation, I can almost guarantee you weren't shut down by it. You weren't limited down by it. It wasn't the mind killer. It freed you up. In fact, a lot of people think it feels amazing. But it's those little fears that we create throughout the day and attribute to things outside us, to people outside us, to situations outside us, that drags us down, that shuts us down, that shrinks our world down. And that's the kind of fear that in any moment, you don't have to keep creating it. Sometimes you'll find yourself just scared. You won't have even noticed it happen. That's okay too, because then you can just feel it and it passes through. But more and more of the time, if you are willing to look away from all the things that you keep trying to attribute the fear to, and just go, well, what if it really is just thought? You don't need to identify the thought. You don't need to avoid the thought. You don't need a better thought. If you know it's thought, you know it'll pass. And if you know it'll pass, you don't really have to do anything about it. And if you're not scared of fear, then fear can't do anything to you. And it's easier to stay in the game. And there's less interference and more potential in your performance. So what's the second killer? Well, the second killer is stress. And I call stress the joy killer, because stress is what takes the fun out of things, right? There are probably things that when you first did them, you really enjoyed them. And then at a certain point, sometimes because you got good at them and you started kind of putting expectations on yourself, or other people started putting expectations on you, you started finding them stressful, and all the fun goes out of the game. But stress, like fear, doesn't exist. The feeling that we call stress, of course, that exists. We all know that one. But there's no such thing as stress. You can't put stress in a wheelbarrow. Now that means we're creating it. So when we wind ourselves up, when we get busy-minded, we experience that as a feeling of stress. And then, like with fear, we look for, what is it outside me that caused it? Oh, it's that's stressful. It's that's stressful. If you listen to the way people talk about stress, if you listen to yourself talk about stress, the model that most people seem to have is almost like germ theory. There are stress germs, and certain places and situations have more stress germs than other places and situations. And so, oh, you don't want to go there. That's really stressful. You're likely to catch stress if you go there. But here, like, there's not much stress here. There's not many germs here. So you can safely do this. And so we kind of, if we think stress is a property of the world, that it's a thing out there that we can catch, we tend to shrink our world so that we experience less stress, or try and toughen up. So even though we're stressed, we're going to stay in the game. And that was definitely my story. So there was a time back in 2009, and my book Super Coach had come out, and I had been contacted by somebody who wanted to make a television program out of it. And she was one of the producers of Dr. Phil, which is a big show in America. And so we were filming a pilot for this, and I was working on my business, and I was just so busy-minded. I was trying to do so many things all at once, and I was in this constant state of stress. But I'd read that there's a wonderful Jim Rohn quote that I used to have up on my wall that said, "Don't wish it was easier, wish you were tougher." And that really appealed to something macho in me. And so I'm like, yeah, I can do this. And then one day I was going to fly up to see a client. And I came downstairs and my wife said, "What happened to your face?" I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "Well, look in the mirror." And I was like, half my face had kind of fallen down. And I thought, well, that's weird. But I was really busy and I had a lot to do, and I needed to walk the dogs before I went to the airport, before I went to see my client, so that I could make some calls, so that I could do this. So I'm walking the dogs and I'm a little worried about it, but not too worried, because I'm like, well, look, I don't know where this came from, but I mean, they can film me from this side. And anyways, I do a lot of radio, and it doesn't matter what my face looks like for radio. And I was so busy. It didn't even occur to me that there might actually be something wrong. And I got on the airplane and flew to see my client, and I was with my client for we tried to keep working, and they finally said, "Look, can you do me a favor?" And I said, "What?" And they said, "Can you let me take you to the hospital, because you're freaking me out?" And I'm like, "Oh, fine." And we go to the hospital, and it's not until we get to the hospital and they rush me. They look at me and they go, "Come with us." And they rush me into the hospital that it even occurs to me for the first time, maybe something's wrong. Now, as it happened, it wasn't a stroke, which is what everybody was concerned about. It was something called Bell's palsy, and Bell's palsy is stress related. And because we caught it right at the beginning, it's also quite treatable. And so it never really became a thing. But it did serve as a wake-up call. Because up until that moment, I had thought the thing you do with the joy killer, the thing you do about stress, is get tougher, get more stress hardiness. And what I actually started to see is, now this is just not helpful. This is just a feeling that, to the extent that I have any say in it, I don't want in my world. Now, had it looked like stress was a function of the world and I didn't want stress, I'd have to avoid the world. If stress is a function of the game, well, then I'd have to just drop out of the game. But because I kind of knew stress is made of thought, we get very busy-minded and we feel stressful. We get very wound up and we feel tight. Kind of like a tetherball, if you've ever played tetherball, where the more wound up it gets, the tighter it gets. And then it takes a little while to unwind. Well, that's us. But it's not our activity and it's not the world. It's our thoughts. And when we get wound up in our thoughts, when they get going too fast, we feel stress. Now, when you know that, when you see that's you, that's not a function of the world. It's not that you caught stress germs and that if you go somewhere else, there won't be stress germs. It's literally when your thought speed gets going really fast, when you have a high rev internally, you feel stress. But here's what's kind of fun. You don't need a high rev to get a lot done. You don't need to be all wind up in here in order to manage multiple things. In fact, it's much easier when you're not going a million miles a minute in here. And so stress, like fear, you don't have to get tougher. You don't have to avoid the world or control the world. You don't even have to control your thinking. It's like, was that a good thought? Is that a bad thought? Because that just kind of adds to the muddle. You can literally take your foot off the gas. And in the same way as in a car, like if you had the tachometer, the revolutions per minute, and you're revving it and you're revving it and you're revving it. You don't need to slam on the brakes. You don't need to stop doing stuff. You don't need to drop out of your life. You don't need to drop out of the game. You just take your foot off the gas internally, and your mind will automatically settle. And when it settles, you're back to your best. When the interference of a busy mind isn't so active, more of your potential is showing up in your performance. So again, you may feel stress from time to time, but that's okay. It's just another set of body sensations. It doesn't mean anything about the world. And it actually can almost become a helpful signal. Because when you start to feel stress, you can kind of go, ooh, I'm wound up. I want to back off this a little bit and get down to a kind of a healthy rev, a flow. Right? We talk about flow states as being what everybody's after in performance. Well, flow is the speed of life. It's not the speed of thought. Thought, generally speaking, is going much faster than life is. In fact, just an interesting aside, one of the most interesting things I've seen about thought speed is that boredom is what life looks like. Life looks boring when your head is going faster than the speed of life. When you slow down to the speed of life, life is fascinating. Life is filled with flow. It's almost like if you're running on a travelator, if you've ever seen those kind of moving walkways, if you're running faster than the travelator, it seems like it's not moving and it's all on you. If you slow down even a little, you start to feel yourself being carried. And that's how it is in life. To get into the flow of life, you just need to let your thoughts slow down. And then life catches up and moves you forward. What's the third mind killer, the third horseman of the mental apocalypse? Well, it's pressure. The third way that I see people again and again and again take themselves out of the game or get in the way, get in their own way, limit their effectiveness and their impact is through putting pressure on themselves. Now, as it happens, I came here from the golf course, and I was talking to this young pro who, well, he's a 21-year-old guy who is trying to turn pro, and we just happened to be playing together. And he was asking me about pressure. He said, because his coach has been telling him that he needs to learn to, get better at handling pressure. And when I said to him, there's no such thing as pressure, he looked at me like I was nuts, as maybe you're doing now. I don't know. One of the beauties of this is I have no idea. I can just make up that, pressure is this thing that we do. We press on ourselves. We pile expectations on top of ourselves and then wonder why we feel pressure. But in the performance world, a lot of people think, well, pressure's good because pressure squeezes the best out of me. Well, I think pressure does often squeeze the best out of us and leaves it like old toothpaste on the ground. In other words, if the pressure that you're putting on yourself and maybe attributing to the situation, but is helping you stay focused, great. But almost everybody I know presses too hard and creates tension. And tension is the enemy of performance. In a sport, it's obvious. So in golf, somebody tenses up, the ball just goes anywhere but where they're aiming it. But mental tension, mental stress, mental pressure squeezes the ideas out of our head. It makes it hard to think. And the very time where we need our most creative thinking, it seems like we've got the smallest aperture through which a new idea could come. And so I talk about pressure as the creativity killer, because when we put that pressure on ourselves, when we squeeze our minds with lots and lots of thoughts about, oh yeah, you got to do this, or else, it turns out most of us don't do really well with a gun to our head. One of my colleagues worked with an all-star in the National Hockey League. And this guy was one of the top scorers in the league at the time that he was working with him. And this guy had been taught, as most of us were taught, that pressure is an important part of performance, and it comes from the game. It comes from the moment. So you need to learn to handle it. And this coach was telling this player, actually, no. Actually, pretty much all the pressure people put on themselves creates tension and puts them off their game. And the player's like, I don't buy that. And he said, okay, if I put a puck on center ice and an empty net and asked you to make 10 shots, how many of them would go in the net? The guy said 10. And he said, okay, what if I put a gun to your head and said, I'm going to shoot you if you miss? And the guy said, well, 9. And he said, okay, what if I put a gun to your children's heads? And the guy just went, I don't know. But he could see that this myth that A, pressure is good for you, and B, it's inevitable, wasn't helpful. Like fear, like stress, there's no such thing as pressure, but we can create the sensations of it by trying to pile this expectation onto us that we've got to do this and we've got to do this and we've got to perform at this level and this level and this level and this level. And the weight of the pressure that we're piling on ourselves just makes us tense. It kills our creativity. It creates tension in our body. It interferes with our performance, and it exhausts us. And when you're exhausted and you're not doing well, you tend to not really be that excited about staying in the game. But when you're not exhausted and there's no pressure, we all perform pretty well. So what I'm saying is fear, stress, and pressure don't exist outside of the mind. They don't exist in nature. They don't help with performance. In fact, they hinder. And they don't come from the world. They come from thought. They come from us. Now, I'm not saying you're sitting there doing it on purpose, unless, like with fear, you are sitting there doing it on purpose. And by the way, you can try that with stress and pressure as well if you want to. But what I am saying is, it is coming through you. Now, no big deal if you're feeling it. It's just sensation in the body. Focus on the sensation. It'll dissipate. But you don't have to keep doing it. Like one of the oldest jokes in the book. Doctor, it hurts when I do this. Doctor says, don't do it. Well, if we're pressuring ourselves and stressing ourselves and scaring ourselves and it's getting in the way, we don't have to keep doing it. The second we notice that we're doing it, we can stop. And if you're thinking, well, how do I stop? How is it that you're not punching yourself in the face right now? And my guess is your answer is, I don't know. Why would I punch myself in the face? Exactly. When pressuring yourself and stressing yourself and scaring yourself looks as pointless and painful as punching yourself in the face, it will be equally easy to not do it. Now, there's one more killer. We're not done yet. And this is the one I call the dream killer. And the dream killer is discouragement. We are extraordinarily well trained at discouraging ourselves, at talking ourselves out of things, at convincing ourselves that our efforts are pointless because, it's not going to work out anyways. And then we collect up all the times things haven't worked, examples from other people's lives, examples in our lives, and we save them up so that we can use them as ammo so we can take ourselves out of the game by discouraging ourselves. So what I'm going to invite you to consider is the possibility that you could become discouragement proof. and fear proof and pressure proof and stress proof. And that is in fact what happens when you see how fear is created, how stress is created, how pressure is created, and how discouragement is created. So how do you become discouragement proof? Well, you've probably figured it out by now. If discouragement is not something that exists in the world, it's not something that exists outside you, it is something that is created as a feeling in thought, well, you can start to catch wise to it. You can start to notice yourself taking yourself out of the game, discouraging yourself, giving yourself all this evidence about why there's no point and why it can't happen and why there's no hope. Hope's not a strategy. Well, if you've ever read the books, The Lord of the Rings, the trilogy, and I don't mean the movies because it's not quite as obvious in the movies, but in the books, Tolkien does an amazing job of talking about hope and discouragement. And the white magicians, the Gandalf the Grey, the good magicians, they give hope. That is white magic. They touch the person feels hope in their heart, and they find courage, encourage, in courage, in the heart. They find heart, they take heart, and they come back and they win the battle. And the dark wizards take away hope. They put discouraging thoughts in people's heads, and people go, oh, what's the point? And even the greatest warrior without hope barely fights. Because what's the point? It's too much work to even lift my arms to fight. I'm going to die anyways. Now I kind of have a thing on this one. I don't know if you can tell. But like fear, pressure, and stress, yeah, they suck and they get in the way. And you do better when you don't scare yourself and pressure yourself and stress yourself. Discouragement's subtler. Most people have never even really thought about that one. But I can tell you, for me, discouragement's the big one. Because if you've discouraged yourself well, you're kind of already out of the game, even if you're still playing. But if you rediscover the power of hope, if you start to realize that no matter how many times you have tried and it hasn't worked, you're if anything, better off than you were before you started, not worse off, right? You will never, one of my mentors says, and I love this line, you will never know this little again. You will never be this bad at something that you're working on again. So in fact, hope is more realistic than discouragement. But putting that to one side, if something hurts and you are the one doing it, you don't have to keep doing it. And discouragement hurts. It's a subtler hurt. It's a more lethargic feeling. It's a less of a sharp feeling than sometimes stress and fear and pressure. But discouragement is the one that will take us out of the game. And the one guarantee in life is that if you don't play, you can't win. So if you're wondering sort of, well, okay, that's a lot, what do I do with that? Well, here's some really good news. You really don't have, because your potential is already there. Underneath all the interference of all the scary thinking and pressured thinking and stressful thinking and discouraging thinking. You're as good as new. You're as good as you were day one of whatever the game that you're playing is. In fact, you're probably better at the game, but you're as good in yourself. There's a distinction that my friend Dr. Robert Holden and I shared in a program over the last year. We created a program called Spiritual Resilience, and we ran it throughout the first 9 months of the pandemic. And the distinction between what we were calling spiritual resilience and the way that most people think of resilience is, most people think of resilience as mental toughness, right? If I just tough enough, I'll tough it out. I might be a little battered and bruised, but I'll make it out the other side. right? It's the sort of Christmas orange model of resilience, right? I may be, I keep throwing the orange against the wall and it's thick-skinned, so it still looks like it's okay, even if it's a little battered and bruised on the inside and the juice has begun to run out and it's kind of gone off a little. That's not resilience. That's taking your lumps. True resilience is the recognition that no matter what you've gone through, your spirit is untouched. It's the recognition that our true nature is more like a mirror than an orange. A mirror can reflect horrific images 24/7 and is no worse off than it was before it reflected any of them. It can reflect beautiful images 24/7 and is no better off than it was before. The mirror of our nature is perfect and whole as it was the day you were born. No matter what you have gone through, no matter what dark thoughts you have thought, dark feelings you have felt, dark experiences you have experienced, dark circumstances you have encountered, you're as good as new. And when we aren't discouraging ourselves, scribbling discouraging things onto the mirror, when we're not pressuring ourselves, putting tons of expectation on the mirror, if we're not stressing ourselves, just revving up the mirror and writing it all over it and scribbling and scribbling and scribbling, if we're not frightening ourselves, scaring ourselves, we're just there. We're just here. And we all do really well when we're present. We all do really well when we don't have too much on our mind, or at worst, we don't pay too much attention to what we have on our mind. We just get on and play the games we want to play. The game of relationship, the game of business, the game of life. So, I hope you find that helpful. If you want to learn more, come check me out. I think Bernardo put some stuff around this, but you can always find me online at michaelneal.org. And until we get a chance to either meet again or meet for the first time, have fun, learn heaps. And thanks for listening. Bye-bye for now.
My passion is to set people free by helping you transform any area of your life more effectively and faster than anything you've tried before. I do this by unique abilities gifted to me through 2 near-death experiences that allow me to help you change your frequency, changing your life.
Hello, folks. So, welcome back to this afternoon's stages here at the Best You Expo London 2021, and we've been having the most incredible day so far. We were listening to Michael Neal there for the last 40 plus minutes. Michael has been, I suppose for me, a personal, not sure that I like using the word guru, but he's certainly been someone who has been very influential to me in my business career over the last 17 years. And that's because he introduced what turned out to be one of my first mentors inside the NLP fraternity, and that was Paul McKenna. He was responsible for, I think, by all accounts, helping and mentoring Paul to publish his first book, which was Change Your Life in 7 Days. And I've been a student myself of personal development for over 28 years now. And so I guess if we take 17 out of that, that leaves about 11 years before the enlightening experience of NLP And NLP, or it stands for Neuro Linguistic Program, as someone actually still asks me today, what does NLP stand for? So we get to assume, or we assume if we're in that industry, that everybody has heard tell of it, but apparently that's not the case. And I read the book Change Your Life in 7 Days some 17 years ago, way back in 2004. And I actually read it as part of a book club that I was involved in back then. And if you're familiar with reading books or personal development books, certainly there's no shortage of incredible books out there. And you can read away on your own to your heart's content. But I formed a reading group or a book club, whatever you want to call it, with friends of mine, mostly all self-employed people. In fact, they were all self-employed people or business owners. And there was a couple of psychotherapists and hypnotherapists amongst the people as well. And they were just, it's amazing the different dynamics that you can actually get if you get people together and everyone sees something in a different vein. And in fact, even I recall now as I share this story that Paul actually mentions in his book, Change Your Life in 7 Days, how you can be standing at a football ground, two guys supporting opposing sides, watching the same tackle pretty much taking place and seeing that tackle completely differently. One sees a fair tackle, the other one sees someone being completely taken out of the game. And it started to make me think about how we actually talk to ourselves. And it started to make me think about, the language that we use frequently. And inside the book club dynamic, it was amazing as we started to pull that book apart. And although it says Change Your Life in 7 Days, it was actually almost instantaneous transformation for me because of the information that I've been learning from all of the years of personal development up until that started to make sense as I started to get a handle on the language and how we speak to ourselves. So the book club and what was going on at that time was just tremendous for different people having different versions of listening and reading out even the same lines. Different people had different interpretations. So it's incredible what you can actually pick up from that. So NLP has been incredible for me. And I always vowed that whenever time or whatever stage I got round to actually studying it, I would be looking forward to doing it with either the Paul McKenna group or Richard Bandler himself. That was where I basically wanted to go. And thankfully, thanks to Bernardo and the work that he has been carrying on now for a good number of years through NLP Learning for Life here in the UK, I was able to train with Richard about 3 years ago when I actually done my practitioner course, and I enjoyed it so much I came back and done my master practitioner course, which will be 2 years in May coming now, this 2021. So NLP has been very influential for me. It has helped me in all of my business career. It has helped me to expand into a whole array of different things. I've gone on to become a speaker. I have traveled the world speaking at many different engagements. In fact, prior to COVID, back in 2019, I pretty much spent 6 months of the year traveling across the world. I was out in Dubai some 20 times, down in Thailand on numerous occasions, on the African continent, down in South Africa, Johannesburg, and all across most of Europe, from Kiev to Warsaw, Vienna, Rome, Amsterdam, Paris, London, numerous times. So as a young guy living here in Ireland and traveling across the world, I've certainly had some great experiences. And I have found that the use of NLP and everything connected to that has been a major factor for me in that involvement and getting those engagements and speaking in different things. So I bring that all right back to Michael Neal. And when I read, up on Michael, I read that he was very influential in Michael's books or in Paul McKenna's books and so many other books that I've read since that. So it's been great just to be able to spend the last 40 minutes taking notes frantically and listening to Michael Neal and the messages that he had to deliver. So I'd certainly encourage everyone to stick close to the best you, to all that's going on there, and keep in touch with what's happening in the very near future. So we still have an incredible lineup to come throughout the rest of the day. Very shortly, just going through the list of who's coming up next. And I think next we have a lady called Jill, I think it's called Lublin. And Jill's coming up to speak to us very shortly. Again, she's been pretty much a radical person in educating people, helping them get their books out there, educating them what to do. And she's got, it basically describes here She's got the networking magic, so she's someone who actually knows how to maximize the best from networking and from rubbing shoulders and getting referrals, and how to use that to your best ability. So we're going to be hearing just a little bit from Dr. John DeMartini, actually someone that I have met a few times as well over the years. We've got Bethany London, I think that's London, yeah, coming up, or London, coming up at 4:30. And we're finishing off the afternoon with Dr. Cheryl Wood, and that's coming on at 5:15. So lots of stuff happening. We're just going to go to a brief commercial, and we'll be back sharing with you a lot more information on what's happening across the day, and including some incredible prizes being given away over these 3 days as well. So we'll just move to a commercial now, and we'll be back with you in just a few moments. Thank you.
The Best You Online. Featuring in-depth interviews, motivational talks, and inspiring masterclasses from the world's top experts, motivational speakers, business gurus, and thought leaders. Leaders and influencers from all over the world are here to share their knowledge and skills with you. With over 500 speakers, The Best You Online is a priceless mine of personal development wisdom, knowledge, and practical information to help you take charge of your life and take your business and career beyond where you have always wanted to go. The Best You Online.
The Best You Store, helping you do more, achieve more, be more. Store.thebestyou.co.
In particular, obviously, a lot of people that are starting, they're either trying to reinvent themselves or their lives, either because they want a new start or they lost their jobs. What would you say the best things to have, know, or be aware of are in order to do that, to be able to reinvent yourself?
Well, I think before you reinvent yourself, I think you need to really come to a conclusion of what has happened in your life. And I think the best conclusion is always to look at your life and say, look, this is the things I've learned from it. These are the challenges I had in that time of my life. I forgive myself for the challenges I created. I also forgive the people that have co-created the challenges with me. Because I don't think you can reinvent yourself and start all over if you don't really say thank you to what you have experienced before. Because I've gone and reinvented myself a few times in life, but you always have to go back and say, look, all right, I learned it. I will take from it what was beneficial for me, and I will really focus now on the future. So that's the first step.
Tell us about The Secret, because obviously that was kind of like a big step into your career, and you becoming such a global phenomenon. How did that come? How did it all happen?
Yeah. Well, it was actually the third meeting of our Transformation Leadership Council that Jack Canfield had created. And a few weeks before, I had this dream that a woman, a blonde, blonde woman, would come to me, and she said in my dream, I'm from Australia, pay attention when I come in your life. I'm like, okay. So I woke up with that dream. And so 2 weeks later, I'm in Aspen, Colorado, and I'm at the back of the room. I was still very shy, to be honest. All these amazing people. I felt not worthy, to be honest, to be there. And so I'm sitting in the back of the room. There's one place left, and this woman shows up and said, "Hi, I'm Rhonda Byrne from Australia." I'm like, "Oh, there you are." I said, "What are you about?" And he said, "Well, I'm doing this interview for a movie, The Secret. It's for the Australian network." And she said, "A lot of people don't want to do the interview." I said, "Oh, I'm ready for you, right? So tell me, what do I need to do?" And she said, "Wow, you're so enthusiastic." I said, "Yes, I got a dream about you." So she interviewed me, and that was actually my first TV interview ever. I'd never been on camera before. So I was really starting, right? But I knew that it was going to be very powerful because I had asked for being in a movie seen by millions of people So it was in Australia, it was on the biggest network, so I would be with millions of people. But at that time, of course, there was, we had no idea where it would go.
The Best You TV, a TV channel with only the best business leaders and influencers ready to help you rise to the top. Available now on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and Google Play. Are you in the personal development world trying to reach a larger audience? Are you a motivational speaker, an author, therapist, coach, or business guru tired of pushing out content with little results? Gain more clients and expand your business today. Get your show or content on The Best You TV.
People from all over the world are seeking inspiration, looking for answers, looking for ways to become the best version of themselves. And The Best You is launching in 2021 the Best TV series, a place where we will feature the best speakers, coaches, authors, and mentors. Leaders in their own rights, innovators, influencers, inspirers of the 21st century. Coming soon to The Best You TV.
My passion is to set people free by helping you transform any area of your life more effectively and faster than anything you've tried before. I do this by unique abilities gifted to me through 2 near-death experiences that allow me to help you change your frequency, changing your life.
Hi, I'm Bernardo Moy. I'm the founder of The Best You and author of The Questions. And unfortunately, my father passed away at the age of 54. From an early age, I realized that I had to take responsibilities that I probably wasn't prepared for. It was a big crash. I didn't really understand the consequences of me not having a father, and I spent my life really looking for the father figure. If I fast forward a few years, I then got into real estate, and at the age of 26, when I already had my son, the first real estate came. I remember I had lots of people knocking on my door, all sorts of people coming round, looking for money because I literally had to close my company down. And all the savings I had in this big box of chocolates, and we had these 100 peseta coins, which is the equivalent to a pound. When I took the last coin out, which the penny dropped, as they say, that was it. I bought my son a tin of lentils from the supermarket, and that was it. That was all the money I had. So I started in timeshare, and I was very lucky because I literally turned things around. Within a couple of weeks, I was making £1,000 a week. So I then went to my second entrepreneurship. I went to the second time to rebuild my real estate business, and I did. And I was refurbishing properties, redecorating properties, building them. I built this up, but then again, another real estate bubble. And this one caught me in a really bad way because I had tasted wealth. Okay, I thought I was rich. Luckily, I was already on a journey of self-discovery. I was already very interested in professional growth. I've been reading books for many, many years. Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Jack Canfield, you name it. But it was NLP that really put me on the map. NLP that really positioned me to start understanding about my thinking, about becoming aware of my thoughts and really focusing. So when this real estate crash was coming, and it was coming bad, I dealt with it in a way that I didn't deal with it before. And that's where I started commuting from Spain to London for 3 years, and I started a completely different career in personal and professional growth. Did I have any idea about running personal development events? No idea at all. I was very passionate about it. I loved it, but I was good at sales and marketing. I could speak languages. I remember speaking to my wife and I said that I want to do this. And she said to me, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Well, yeah, because if not me, then who? And if not now, then when?" And that was it. I went for it. So I went to London with an open mind in looking at how I could potentially become the best version of myself, but also how I could help people. And I did that for 10 years with NLP Life Training, working with Dr. Richard Bandler, Paul McKenna, and some many great people. And it's been beautiful to see how through these trainings, we've trained over 25,000 people, how we've managed to help and enhance people's lives. But 5 years ago, I had my own questions. I wanted to come up with my own brand. And that's where I came up with the idea of The Best You.
Now, I share this normally. I could have called it the average you, the crap you, but the idea is that wouldn't work. And it doesn't work because everyone wants to become the best version of themselves. Of course they do. So I wanted to create a platform where all these great thinkers, authors, leaders could share their ideas in a place where, you could connect, you could go and find them. If I wanted, and I wanted to summarize kind of my journey and all this that I've shared with you now, I've shared it in my book, The Question. Because with all my NLP training, with all the people that I've interviewed, all the people that I've worked, all the people that I've been connected to, I've really identified that it is down to thinking. And it's simple. But the fact is, it really shocks me and scares me that so many people don't think about what they're thinking about. So my book, The Question, really talks about that, about us becoming aware of our thoughts, about asking ourselves empowering questions. Because I believe that if you do that, if you do ask yourself empowering questions, you unconsciously and consciously, you're going to start finding these beautiful solutions. You're going to start asking yourself these questions that need an answer. Because people go through life without asking themselves these empowering questions. That's what I've learned, and that's what I share in my book, and that's what I do with a platform. So I would love to help you. I'd love to explore how, either through the platforms that we have, how you might be able to find inspiration with some of the people that I've interviewed or some of the stories that I've shared. I'd also love to work with you. There might be an opportunity for you to be able to speak at the Best You Expo. There might be an opportunity for us to work together through the Best You Legacy Club, where you could become potentially a director. There's many ways that we could work together. Look, I know I can't do this alone. No one can do it alone. We all need help. I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to reach billions of people around the planet. Not millions, billions of people. And we can do this. And we can do this if we work together. If we work and we focus on the important things in helping individuals find their purpose, helping individuals really identify what their legacy is. Everyone has to ask themselves this question: what am I here for? And you have to do that before it's too late. So I want to thank you so much. I hope to see you soon. Take care. Lots of love.